Amelia woke to a searing pain. It was a drilling, twisting agony in her lower abdomen, coming in waves so intense they stole her breath. A warm gush of fluid between her legs finally forced her eyes open. Gritting her teeth against the pain, she pushed herself up in bed. Just then, the sound of a key turning in the lock echoed from the front door. Amelia looked up. Liam Hayes, her husband who hadn't come home all night, was walking in. He wore an immaculate black suit, his sharp brows and piercing eyes radiating an air of untouchable prestige. Even after all these years, his handsome face still had the power to captivate her. Liam shot her a cold glance before heading straight to the closet to change. Another wave of pain washed over her. Amelia's face went deathly pale. "Liam," she managed to say, her voice strained, "my stomach hurts. Can you take me to the hospital?" Liam turned his head slightly, a sneer playing on his lips. "Married for 2 years and your acting has certainly improved. What's the play this time?" Amelia's eyes widened. She lifted her bloodless face, only to be pierced by the mockery in his smile. The pain was unbearable. Her voice trembled. "I'm not faking it. It really hurts and I think I'm bleeding. Liam, please just take me to the hospital." "I'm scared." "Bleeding?" Liam scoffed. He stopped what he was doing and strode to the bed. He ripped the covers off. After a quick glance, all emotion on his face curdled into fury. "You're a pathological liar, Amelia. You never fail to disappoint me." Amelia looked down, confused. Only then did she see the fluid, but it wasn't blood. Her eyes reddened. "I'm not lying. Why don't you ever believe me?" "Wait until you've bled to death, then I'll personally drive you to the morgue." Liam bit out each word. As if he couldn't stand the sight of her, he threw the corner of the blanket down and slammed the door on his way out. Sharp, stabbing pains shot through Amelia's heart and her tears broke through, a dam collapsing. Just then, the pain in her abdomen intensified, a vicious, tearing sensation that threatened to rip her apart. With no energy left for anything else, Amelia fumbled for the phone on her nightstand. Her trembling fingers dialed 911. The ambulance arrived quickly. Amelia lost consciousness as they lifted her onto the stretcher. When she woke again, she was surrounded by white. In the hospital room, a doctor saw she was awake and walked over. "Amelia Hayes, where's your family?" Once her vision cleared, Amelia slowly sat up. "He's busy with work. He couldn't make it. Is something wrong, doctor?" The doctor hesitated. "No matter how busy he is, he should be here for you. Have him come see me in my office when he has a moment." "What's wrong with me?" Amelia asked, her face a mask of confusion. The doctor, remembering she had the right to know, let out a heavy sigh. He pulled a report from his clipboard and handed it to her. "Stage IV colon cancer." When she heard the words, stage IV, Amelia's mind went completely blank. She couldn't process it. When reality finally crashed back in, the hand holding the report began to shake violently. Her eyes turned red, rimmed with unshed tears. Amelia didn't hear another word the doctor said, only the phrase, 3 months, at most, echoing in her head. She checked herself out of the hospital that afternoon. Sitting in the back of a cab, Amelia sent a text to Liam. "Come home tonight when you have a chance. I need to talk to you." It was just after 10 o'clock at night. The front door finally clicked open. The sound woke Amelia. Ever since the abdominal pain had started a month ago, she had become a light sleeper. The slightest noise could jolt her awake. She rubbed her sleepy eyes. "Liam, didn't you see my text? Why are you so late?" Her voice was thick with sleep. Liam shot her a cold look, walked into the dining room, and sat down across from her, his tone dripping with impatience. "What is it?" Now fully awake, Amelia felt the familiar, splintering pain in her heart. She pushed the divorce agreement she'd been resting her arm on across the table. Her voice was calm. "Let's get a divorce." Liam's hand, reaching for the papers, froze. His face instantly turned to ice. "Excuse me? I know you only married me because of your father's dying wish, and I know these last 2 years have made you miserable." Amelia thought she could be strong, but as the words left her lips, tears welled up again. She had loved Liam for 8 years. Even after they married, he had constantly misunderstood her, his words like daggers. But just knowing she was his wife, legally and officially, had filled her with a secret, desperate joy. Now, even that small, humble love was a luxury she could no longer afford. Amelia met Liam's gaze, forcing herself to finish to hold back the tears. "You fulfilled your promise to your father by marrying me. Now I'm giving you your freedom." What kind of stunt are you pulling now? Liam's eyes flashed with anger. Amelia bit her lip. I'm serious. You love Sophia, don't you? You were with her last night, weren't you? Divorce me, and you two can finally be together, out in the open. Liam didn't understand. He'd been on a last-minute business trip. What did that have to do with Sophia? But just as quickly, his brow smoothed and the anger on his face dissipated. A deliberate, cruel smile touched his handsome lips. That's right, I do love Sophia, and I promised I'd marry her. You've always known that, haven't you? A little late to be getting jealous now, don't you think? Hearing him admit it to her face was like 1,000 arrows piercing her heart, leaving her bleeding and broken. She almost regretted bringing Sophia up. Fearing she would break down in front of him, Amelia stood up from the table, her voice laced with pain. It is a little late, but better late than never. Sign the papers. Let me know when you're free and we can file them. After that. Thinking of the cancer diagnosis, she forced herself to say the words, firm and final. After that, we'll have nothing to do with each other. She turned to go upstairs. Liam stared at her back, his eyes cold. Let me guess why you're so determined to divorce me this time. Amelia's steps faltered. She turned back, a look of confusion on her face. The moment their eyes met, a sardonic smirk spread across Liam's face. Could it be that you think you'll get a massive settlement? He let out a dry laugh, answering his own question. It makes sense. The moment my father was framed and our family faced bankruptcy, you didn't hesitate to break up with me. For a woman like you, divorcing for money isn't surprising at all. Amelia froze. She finally understood the source of his coldness and scorn for the past 2 years. She opened her mouth to explain, but then, thinking of her condition, she closed it again. She didn't have much time left. If hating her allowed Liam to be with someone else without guilt, then perhaps it was better to leave the misunderstanding unresolved. Amelia closed her eyes for a moment. Don't worry, I'll walk away with nothing. I have some savings from these past few years. If you want it, I can give it all to you. She was dying anyway. The money was useless to her. Under Liam's stunned gaze, Amelia turned and went upstairs. Back in the bedroom, she saw a dozen missed calls from her mother. She called back immediately. Her mother, Susan, answered almost instantly, her tone sharp. Amelia, why haven't you been answering your phone? Are you trying to give me a heart attack? Amelia explained calmly. I was downstairs talking to Liam. My phone was charging in the bedroom. Mom, is something wrong? Your father fell from the top floor of his office building. They just wheeled him into the ER. You need to get over here. Now, Susan hung up before Amelia could respond. Amelia's mind went blank. When she finally processed the words, she didn't even grab a coat. She just snatched her phone and ran downstairs. Liam was already gone. Amelia grabbed a set of car keys from the console table by the door, ran to the garage, and sped toward the hospital. When she arrived at the emergency room, the surgery was still in progress. Susan was on the phone by a window in the hallway. Seeing Amelia, Susan covered the receiver and muttered, I have to step out, then walked away, still on her call. Amelia watched her go, a frown creasing her brow. At 2:30 a.m., the surgery finally ended. After speaking with the doctor, Amelia pushed her father's gurney back to his room. She watched over him all night, only drifting off into a restless sleep, slumped over the side of his bed as dawn began to break. She was startled awake by Susan's return and her immediate scolding. Look at you. I asked you to watch your father, and you fell asleep, some devoted daughter. You are. Amelia's first instinct was to check on her father. Seeing he was stable, she turned to Susan. And you? As his wife, where were you all night? The question set Susan off. I wanted to be here, but the debt collectors wouldn't let me go. Your father's company is bankrupt. He's drowning in debt, and what does he do? He jumps off a building, leaving me to deal with everyone demanding their money. Bankrupt? Amelia was stunned. The company was doing so well. How did it suddenly go bankrupt? Susan glared at her. This happened over a month ago. He invested in a real estate deal with a partner. The land had issues, all the money got tied up, and he owes the banks a fortune. Now the bank has frozen all our accounts, and the hospital is hounding me for the medical bills. Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? Amelia's mind was a whirlwind. Suddenly, she remembered Liam's words from the night before. He had accused her of divorcing him for money. He had known all along that her family was bankrupt. Not only did he not offer to help, he used it to mock her. Just then, a sharp, drilling pain shot through her abdomen, yanking her back to the present. Every breath was an agony. After a long moment, she asked, "How much are Dad's medical bills?" "The surgery, medication, and all the miscellaneous fees, at least $100,000. Susan then shot Amelia a sidelong glance. "I called you here to talk about this. Besides the hospital bills, your father has about $3 million in outstanding debts. You need to get that money from Liam." Amelia clenched her fists, looking up at her mother, fighting back the sting in her eyes. "He won't give it to me. How do you know if you don't ask?" Susan snapped. Amelia, battling the pain in her stomach, pushed herself to her feet. "He hates me for breaking up with him back then. He probably wouldn't even lend me money, let alone give it to me. Besides, we're about to get divorced." "Divorced?" Susan's voice shot up an octave. She was about to launch into a tirade but caught herself, her expression changing. "A divorce could work. Liam is incredibly wealthy. You'd get a huge settlement." Amelia stared at her, her face blank. "I'm walking away with nothing." "You're what?" Susan's face contorted with rage. In the next second, she raised her hand. Slap. The sharp, crisp sound echoed in the room. Amelia's head snapped to the side, her cheek burning. A faint ringing filled her ears. Susan was beside herself with fury. "You worthless girl, you dare to make a decision like that on your own? Are you trying to kill me?" Amelia clutched her cheek, staring silently at her mother for a few seconds before turning and walking out. Susan screamed at her retreating back. "You call Liam right now, you get on your knees and beg if you have to. But you get me that money?" Amelia slammed the door shut, cutting off her mother's voice. As she neared the elevators, she suddenly felt lightheaded. The pain in her abdomen became excruciating. She could barely take a step. "Amelia!" A familiar female voice called from behind her. Amelia turned in surprise, her eyes landing on the last face she ever wanted to see. In stark contrast to Amelia's pale complexion, Sophia Sterling wore delicate, perfect makeup. Her white, form-fitting dress made her look elegant and poised. "It really is you. Don't tell me you followed Liam and me here," Sophia said with a smile, walking up to her. Amelia's face paled further. "Liam brought you to the hospital." Seeing her reaction, Sophia knew she was in the dark. A triumphant smile spread across her face. "Of course. I had a little discomfort in my chest, and he insisted on bringing me for a checkup. He said he wouldn't be able to rest until he saw the results. He's just paying the bill now. He should be back any second." Every word from Sophia was another knife in Amelia's heart. She was falling apart. So Liam could be gentle, just not with her. The difference between being loved and not being loved was a gaping chasm. Amelia hid the tears in her eyes, a self-mocking smile on her lips. To be loved by a man like him, you have every right to be smug. But her tone shifted as she looked up at Sophia. "If I recall correctly, Liam and I are not divorced yet. Isn't it a bit inappropriate for the other woman to be saying these things to the man's wife?" The words, "other woman," struck a nerve. Sophia's brow furrowed in displeasure. "You have the nerve to call yourself his wife. Don't think I don't know. The moment the Hayes family was in trouble, you broke up with Liam. It's because you were already sleeping with the heir to the Shaw Corporation. If it weren't for old Mr. Hayes forcing Liam to marry you on his deathbed, a dirty woman like you wouldn't be Mrs. Hayes in a million lifetimes. 2 years ago, after Liam's father passed away, Liam had come to her. He told her about his father's last wish and asked her, with red-rimmed eyes, if she would marry him. She already loved him. She'd said yes without a second thought. Where did this forced marriage narrative come from? And the accusation of sleeping with Ethan Shaw was a complete fabrication. Amelia's heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. "Did he tell you all of this?" "You did it, so why blame others for talking about it?" Sophia retorted, effectively confirming it. Amelia was so heartbroken she could barely stand. Sophia's voice continued, relentless. "I suggest you divorce Liam sooner rather than later. You're not even 30 yet, and you haven't had kids. You might still find someone decent. Wait a few more years when you're old and washed up and no man will want you. The divorce is between me and Liam. It's none of your business." The pain in Amelia's abdomen was unbearable. Not wanting Sophia to see her weakness, she delivered the cold line and turned to leave. But Sophia wasn't done. She stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Your family's company is bankrupt and your father jumped off a building. I bet you can't even afford his medical bills, can you? If you agree to divorce Liam, I can give you $500,000. $500,000. A single one of Liam's suits cost more than that. Amelia had no patience for this. Move. Just as Sophia was about to speak again, she caught a glimpse of a handsome figure approaching from the corner of her eye. She suddenly reached out and grabbed Amelia's arm. Amelia frowned in disgust and instinctively pulled away. Her hand never even touched Sophia, but Sophia suddenly threw herself sideways, crashing heavily to the floor. Thud, the sound alone told you it was a hard fall. Amelia hesitated, wondering if she should help her up when she saw Liam rushing over. He knelt and helped Sophia up, his face etched with worry. Are you hurt? Did you fall anywhere? Sophia looked stunned for a second, then burst into tears. Liam, my arm, it hurts so much I think. I can't move it, Waya. It's okay, I'm here. Utterly concerned, Liam swept Sophia up into his arms. Before leaving, he shot Amelia a look of absolute, freezing contempt. I'll deal with you later. Staring at Liam's retreating back, Amelia's heart was shattered. From the moment he arrived, she had been waiting for him to ask her a question, just one, but he hadn't asked anything. He had already pronounced her guilty. He had never, ever believed her. A passing nurse, seeing Amelia's ghastly pale face and the way she was clutching her stomach in pain, quickly called for a stretcher and had her taken to a room. As the doctor examined her, Amelia was breaking out in a cold sweat, her consciousness fading in and out. The shrill ring of her phone finally jolted her back to awareness. She took a few seconds to compose herself before answering. Hello, her voice was hoarse. Where are you? Liam's cold, anger-laced voice came through the phone. Just from the sound of his voice, Amelia knew Sophia's condition must be serious. She closed her eyes in resignation and gave him her room number. Liam arrived quickly. The moment he walked in and saw her in a hospital gown, his brow furrowed in fury. You pushed Sophia, you broke her arm, and you're the one in a hospital bed. Amelia started to explain, but then she saw his angry gaze fix on the medical report on the table. Next to the report were the medications the doctor had prescribed for her. Her heart skipped a beat. Her voice died in her throat. What do I do? What if he finds out about my illness? As Amelia's mind raced, trying to figure out how to explain, she saw Liam turn back to her, his eyes blazing with even greater fury. I really underestimated you. To avoid responsibility, you actually forged a cancer diagnosis. Why not just say you're already dead? In all the time she had known him, this was the first time Amelia had ever seen him this furious. For a fleeting, foolish moment, she thought his anger was because he thought she had faked the report. But she quickly shook her head, dismissing the idea. He would never be angry for her. By now, Liam had stormed to her bedside, his anger palpable. He grabbed her arm. Go and apologize. Amelia's face went white. She resisted with all her might. No, why should I apologize when I did nothing wrong? Nothing wrong? Liam's furious eyes bore into her. I saw you push her with my own 2 eyes. Are you still going to deny it? Amelia retorted, and what you see with your own eyes is always the truth. By that logic, when the paparazzi take deliberately angled photos and spin a story, that's photographic evidence? Liam's temples throbbed with rage. Amelia tried to pull her arm back, but his grip was like iron. A wave of frustration washed over her. You want me to apologize? Fine, pull the security footage. Pull it from every angle. If you can prove that I pushed her, I will go and apologize immediately. She didn't want to fight with him, she just wanted fairness. If he wouldn't believe her, surely he would believe the cameras. Liam's brow tightened. He shoved her arm away in disgust. Fine, I'll get the footage, you'd better keep your word. I won't go back on it, Amelia said, rubbing her wrist, which felt like it was about to snap. Her face was grim. Liam shot her one last furious glare and turned to leave. But Amelia suddenly remembered something and called out, Wait. Liam stopped, turning his head impatiently. What? Having second thoughts? Amelia raised her voice. Did you tell Sophia that I slept with Ethan Shaw? Is that why you wouldn't touch me these past 2 years? This subject was a thorn in Liam's side. He couldn't even stand to think about it, let alone discuss it with others. And this woman had the audacity to bring it up to his face. Have you no shame? Amelia looked directly into his eyes. It's because I have shame that I want to make this clear. I have no relationship with Ethan Shaw. We've never even held hands. Liam clearly didn't believe her. Amelia looked away. Believe it or not, that's the truth. You can go now. Go. A sarcastic smile played on Liam's lips. He suddenly turned back, deliberately leaning in close to her. Amelia, after all that explaining, are you sure you're not just inviting me? His breath ghosted across her cheek, sending a shiver through her. She instinctively scooted away. Of course not. You're overthinking it. I just don't want to be slandered. As she spoke, a dull ache started in her abdomen. The discomfort made her frown deeply. But Liam, oblivious to her pain, thought she was playing hard to get. He suddenly grabbed both her hands, pinned them above her head, and pressed his body down on hers. Playing games with me. Amelia was clearly terrified. What are you doing? Seeing her fear only made Liam's face colder. The words were squeezed from between his teeth. You wanted to talk about the truth, didn't you? I guess I'll have to verify it myself. He put a heavy emphasis on the word myself. Pinned beneath him, the pain in Amelia's abdomen grew more distinct. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Her face grew paler by the second. Liam saw her expression and thought it was reluctance. Fury flared in his eyes. He gripped her chin, forcing her to look at him, and spoke, word by word. Amelia, who are you putting on this deathly act for? A used-up woman someone else has already had his fun with. Did you really think I'd still want you? With that, he violently shoved her chin away and pushed himself off her, his body radiating pure rage. He left without a backward glance. The door slammed shut behind him. Amelia stared at the door, tears streaming down her face. The combination of physical pain and heartbreak pushed her to the edge of despair. She buried her face in the covers and let out a torrent of grief. After crying for what felt like an eternity, she lifted her red-rimmed eyes. She got out of bed, changed back into her own clothes, and checked herself out of the hospital. She drove back to their house. That afternoon, Amelia was a blur of motion, constantly packing and organizing. It was as if she were preparing for a long journey. That evening, a call came from her mother, Susan. Amelia hesitated for a moment before answering. The second the call connected, Susan asked, "Did you talk to Liam about the money?" Amelia's face was devoid of emotion. "No, and I'm not going to." Susan's voice rose sharply. "Amelia, do you want to watch your father and me die? I've already transferred the money for Dad's medical bills to the hospital. As for the rest, I can't help you. After all, she was dying too." "What do you mean? You can't help if it weren't for your father and me raising you, if it weren't for our family's business. Do you think you could have married into a wealthy family? Now that we're in trouble, you have a duty to help." Susan was desperate. Amelia was her last lifeline. "I'm telling you, even if you have to sell yourself, you will get me that money otherwise. I'll take your father and we'll jump from this building together. And you can come collect our bodies." Amelia's brow furrowed. She couldn't believe her mother would use her father's life to threaten her. She was silent for a long time. "Are you really willing to leave Leo all alone and die with Dad?" Hearing the name, Leo, Susan thought she was hallucinating. "What did you say?" Amelia's voice was calm. "Mom, that private tutor you hired for me, the one who was only a year older than me. His name was Leo, right?" On the other end of the line, Susan's breathing grew shallow. Amelia continued, "I forgot to tell you. The day I went back to college after winter break, Dad did drive me to campus, but I forgot my meal card and took the bus back home to get it. You were so excited that day, you were screaming so loudly. I could hear you even with my hands over my ears. I also heard, in between, other things, Leo coaxing you to transfer him money. He must have gotten a lot of money from you over the years, hasn't he?" After she finished, she heard Susan start to sob quietly. "He's a monster, he took so much from me, and then he laughed about me to other people, called me old." Amelia's eyes were cold, devoid of sympathy. "I told Dad about it later. Do you know what he said?" Susan's crying subsided slightly. Amelia answered her own question. "Dad said, she gave birth to you. If even we abandon her, what will she do with her life? He genuinely wants to grow old with you, so don't hurt him." With that, she hung up. She stared at her phone for a while, then dialed Liam's number. The phone rang for a long time before it was answered. Liam seemed to be busy. His cold voice was laced with impatience. "What is it?" His tone stung Amelia. I was just calling to ask, did you sign the divorce papers? When can we go file the?" Suddenly, she heard Sophia's crying from the other end of the line. It was faint, intermittent, but it was enough to make the last word die in her throat. As expected, in the next moment, Liam threw out a "I'll call you when I get back," and hung up. It was clear he hadn't heard a word she'd said. Amelia stared at the disconnected call, dazed. She muttered to herself, "Liam, I don't have much time left. Why can't you even spare me a minute on the phone?" She didn't notice the small, round blue light on the miniature robot charging in the corner flash on, spin for a few seconds, and then go dark. Because Liam had said he was coming home, Amelia sat in the living room with her phone, waiting. The hands of the clock spun round and round. Liam never came back, and she, slumped over the table, fell into a deep sleep. When she woke again, the sun was already bright. Amelia found herself lying in the large bed in their bedroom. She glanced at the clothes Liam had changed out of, draped over the sofa. He came back. She quickly got out of bed and walked out barefoot. As she reached the top of the stairs, she saw Liam, dressed in a sharp suit, standing by the front door, phone to his ear. Seeing him put on his shoes, about to leave, Amelia was about to call out to him when she saw him pause, his expression turning grave. Are there no other treatment options? Given her current condition, how long does she have? Amelia froze as if struck by lightning. He knows about my illness. The doctor promised he'd keep it a secret. How could he know? All right, I'm on my way. We'll talk in person, Liam said, opening the door and walking out. Amelia, stunned, ran down the stairs, grabbed her coat, and chased after him. She wanted to tell him she didn't want to spend her final days in chemotherapy. She followed Liam to the hospital's inpatient department and watched him walk into the chief physician's office. She ran over. Her hand was just about to touch the doorknob when she heard the doctor's heavy voice from inside. This heart failure seems to have been going on for quite some time. Did she never mention it to you before? Heart failure. Amelia's hand froze on the doorknob. Inside, Liam shook his head. No, this is the first time she's ever told me her heart was bothering her. The doctor sighed. It's heart failure caused by the car accident. If it had been detected and treated in time, it wouldn't have progressed to this severe stage. Miss Sterling needs surgery as soon as possible, or she could go into cardiac arrest at any moment. Cardiac arrest meant death. Liam's face grew even darker. With her condition, can we use an artificial heart? It's possible, but with current medical technology, an artificial heart needs to be replaced every 6 months, and the surgical risks increase each time. The doctor's voice was grave. Because of that car accident, Miss Sterling's bones have become very brittle. You saw it yesterday, a small fall, and she has a fracture. Frequent surgeries will only weaken her body further. I don't recommend an artificial heart. The best course of action is to find a heart donor match as soon as possible and perform a transplant. That's the only permanent solution. Amelia had heard enough. She pulled her hand back from the doorknob and gave a silent, bitter smile. How many times are you going to be so foolish? When will you ever learn? You're not in his heart anymore. Leaving the inpatient wing, Amelia took the elevator to the 3rd-floor outpatient clinic. Under the pretense of being a cancer patient, she signed an organ donation agreement. Then, she had several vials of blood drawn for a cardiac compatibility test for Sophia Sterling. She didn't feel sad at all. If, before she died, she was lucky enough to help him save the life of the woman he loved, it would be the one fortunate event in her unfortunate life. Amelia never expected to run into Ethan Shaw at the hospital entrance. She hadn't seen him in a long time. He still had that same arrogant, roguish air about him. His stylish clothes and handsome face were turning quite a few heads. Amelia looked away, planning to pretend she didn't know him, but as they passed each other, Ethan grabbed her arm. He tilted his chin up. "What's this? You can't see me." Amelia gave him a blank look and tried to pull her arm away. "Sorry, I don't talk to strangers." She started to walk away. "Strangers?" Ethan blocked her path, his handsome face clouded with anger. "Amelia, if I didn't know you had terminal colon cancer, do you think I'd be crazy enough to come here and wait for you?" Amelia's eyes shot up. "How do you know? The doctor who diagnosed you is my uncle." Recalling what his uncle had told him on the phone, Ethan asked, "Did you and Liam get divorced? If you're divorced, why didn't you come find me?" Amelia looked at him, at a loss for words. "You don't look like an idiot. Was everything I ever told you a waste of breath? First of all, I'm not divorced, and even if I were, I would never be interested in you." Ethan had heard this kind of talk from her countless times before. He was immune. "You have cancer, and you didn't even tell him. It's obvious your marriage has been dead for a long time." He gripped her wrist possessively. "Divorce him, be with me. I promise I'll find you the best doctors in the world, and even if they can't cure you, let me be with you until the end." "Please?" Ethan Shaw had always gotten whatever he wanted. He'd never spoken to anyone in such a soft, pleading tone. This was his limit. Amelia struggled but couldn't break free. She looked up, meeting his eyes. "You've misunderstood. I'm hiding it from him because I don't want to waste my remaining time on chemotherapy. I want to use what time I have left to do something for him." As she spoke, a wave of dizziness washed over her. It only lasted a few seconds. When it passed, she finished her sentence. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't need it. Please go and don't come looking for me again. I don't want him to misunderstand me, not even at the end." The way her heart and eyes were filled only with Liam stung Ethan. He tightened his grip, as if he wanted to crush her wrist. He leaned in close to her ear. "2 years ago, I could bankrupt the Hayes family and nearly send Liam's father to prison. I can still do it now. Are you sure you want to provoke me? Aren't you afraid I'll destroy him?" Amelia wasn't worried. In the past 2 years, Liam had grown Hayes Corp into a powerhouse, an equal to Shaw Corp. And Liam himself was no longer the boy living under his father's protection. If Ethan wanted to destroy him, he'd need more than just words. "Do whatever you want." Feeling Ethan's grip suddenly loosen, Amelia pulled her hand back. Without another glance at him, she walked down the steps. However, she had only taken 2 steps when the dizziness returned, stronger this time. Her vision went black, and her body crumpled to the ground. Just before she lost consciousness completely, she heard a clear, panicked voice cry out. "Amelia," then, everything went dark. When she woke up, it was already night. The moment Amelia opened her eyes, Ethan's annoyed voice came from beside her. "You're awake? Don't you have any idea what state your body is in? You're going to get your blood drawn. A few more vials and you'll be in a coffin tomorrow." She glared at him and pushed herself up from the bed. "Why are you still here?" Ethan let out a cold laugh. "I wanted to leave. I called your husband to come pick you up." Guess what he said? Amelia looked at him, silent but waiting for his answer. Ethan's voice was dripping with sarcasm. "He told me to take you home with me. I'd be happy to, but it's not like you'd be willing to come, right?" He still misunderstood. Tears welled in Amelia's eyes, and her emotions began to spiral. "Who told you to call him? If you don't want to help me, don't. I'd rather die than have you meddle in my life." Ethan, on the receiving end of her outburst, lost his temper too. "He's the one who won't come get you, so why are you yelling at me? Get it straight, he's the one out with his mistress, abandoning you, not me." Tears streamed down Amelia's face. Her crying threw Ethan into a panic. He grabbed some tissues. "You look hideous when you cry," Amelia deliberately cried louder. Ethan's scalp prickled. He reluctantly apologized. "Look, I'm sorry, okay? Was that my fault?" "It's not okay." Amelia shot him a fierce glare, threw off the covers, and stormed out of the room. "Where are you going?" Ethan asked, his eyes following her. Amelia slammed the door behind her. After returning to the house, she didn't turn on any lights. She went straight to the bedroom, slid down the wall, and sat on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest. She buried her head between her legs, her eyes growing redder and redder. She didn't know how long she sat there until she heard a noise from downstairs. Amelia lifted her tear-stained face and looked toward the bedroom door. The next moment, the door was pushed open from the outside, and a sliver of light from the hallway cut through the darkness. Liam walked in. Even from this distance, she could smell the alcohol on him. Liam's drunken eyes immediately fixed on Amelia. He loosened his tie and walked toward her. "You were with him, and you still bothered to come back?" Amelia had been sitting for so long that her legs were numb. She pushed herself up, using the wall for support. Her eyes were filled with tears, her voice trembling slightly. "This is my home, of course I came back. What about you? Don't you need to be with Sophia tonight?" Sophia had just been diagnosed with heart failure. She must need company. Unsteady on his feet, Liam suddenly stumbled toward Amelia. Amelia quickly reached out and wrapped her arms around his waist to steady him, her brow furrowing slightly. "Liam, why did you drink so much?" Liam sagged against her, resting his head on her shoulder. His usually cold voice was now hoarse. "Did you know? If they can't find a heart donor match for her, I'll never be able to repay my debt." His words were a sword cleaving Amelia's heart in two. So he was this drunk because of Sophia. The pain was excruciating, but she still offered her bleeding heart as comfort. "Don't worry, They'll definitely find one. Liam stared into her eyes with his drunken gaze. How do you know they'll find one? Because, Amelia met his gaze, fighting back tears, her voice choked with emotion. Because you're the great Liam Hayes, nothing is impossible for you. Whatever you want, whatever it is. If I have it, I'll give it to you with both hands. Liam stared at her, stunned. Suddenly, he cupped the back of her head with his large hand and pulled her close. He pressed his lips to hers. He was domineering, his tongue parting her lips, conquering her completely. Perhaps because she knew her time was short, this time Amelia didn't respond passively like she used to when they were dating. She responded with an ardor of her own. Her initiative ignited a fire in Liam. In one fluid motion, he flipped her over, pressing her down. The next moment, his hands tore away the clothes that covered her. His lips and tongue claimed every inch of her body as his own, and then he drove into her. As he broke through her, Amelia clung to him with all her strength, their bodies pressed tightly together. That night, she rose and fell with him many times, experiencing a pleasure she had never known before. Amelia woke up in Liam's arms. She glanced at the time. It was already 4 in the afternoon. Liam must have just fallen asleep not long ago. Seeing the discarded items in the wastebasket, Amelia's cheeks flushed. She gently lifted his arm, slipped out of bed, and tidied up the room before grabbing a towel to shower. After her shower, she went downstairs to make some congee. Not long after, she heard Liam coming down the stairs. She turned off the stove and brought out a small bowl of congee. Liam, perfect timing. Come have some. Liam, who was fastening his cufflinks, paused. His cool gaze fell upon her. When did you get back? Amelia was stunned. Huh, what? Liam's voice was cold. Amelia, I may have signed the divorce papers, but we haven't filed them yet, and we haven't officially announced our divorce. You are still Mrs. Hayes. Did you think making a show of cooking congee would cover up the fact that you were out all night with another man? Amelia looked at him, completely bewildered. He forgot about last night? Why? Was it because he was too drunk, or was the idea of sleeping with me so disgusting that he selectively erased it from his memory? If that were the case, bringing it up would only make him hate her more. Did you hear me? Liam's voice was sharp. Amelia snapped back to reality and put the bowl down. I understand. It won't happen again. I just made this congee. Do you want to try some? I've lost my appetite. It was unclear if he was talking about the congee or her. Liam shot her a disgusted look, walked to the entryway, and as he was changing his shoes, he suddenly remembered the wild dream from the night before. His eyes flickered back to Amelia. What time did you get home? Amelia, who had been standing by the dining table nursing her broken heart, looked up when he asked. After a moment's hesitation, she said, I was a bit anemic yesterday and fainted at the hospital while getting some medication. I stayed the night there. I was alone. I had a follow-up check this afternoon and just got home not long ago. She still didn't want him to misunderstand. Liam didn't press the issue. He turned and left. Not long after he was gone, Amelia received a call from the hospital. The compatibility test results were in. She was a match for Sophia. Amelia agreed to the transplant surgery for Sophia, voluntarily accepting all the risks involved. But she had 3 conditions. First, the surgery had to be scheduled for 3 days from now. Second, she wanted no compensation of any kind, and the hospital had to keep her identity completely confidential, even from internal staff. Third, the recipient and their family were only to be informed on the day of the surgery. Given Amelia's unique situation as a terminal cancer patient, the hospital agreed to her terms. The transplant agreement was quickly signed and sealed. The day before the surgery arrived. That evening, Liam came home and went straight into his study. Amelia had taken special care with her appearance, changing into a dress that flattered her figure. After checking herself in the mirror and finding no flaws, she picked up the box containing the smart robot from the floor and carried it to the study. Knock, 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 come in. Upon getting permission, Amelia pushed the door open and walked in. Liam, do you remember what day it is today? Liam's eyes were fixed on his computer screen. He didn't look up. If you have something to say, just say it. His impatience was palpable. The smile on Amelia's face froze. She hid her disappointment and gently placed the box on the floor by the leg of his desk. Today is our 2nd wedding anniversary. I got you a gift. Liam's fingers paused on the keyboard. He looked up, his eyes cold. We're getting a divorce. Why are we celebrating an anniversary? Amelia wrung her hands awkwardly. Then, think of it as a wedding gift for your new marriage. A wedding gift? Liam shot her a contemptuous look, his face dripping with sarcasm. You're so generous. Not only are you handing your husband over to someone else, but you're also preparing a gift. Amelia, are you that eager to see me marry someone else? Of course not, but what could she do? A wave of sadness washed through her. She bit her lip, feeling deeply wronged. This gift, because of her unexpected cancer diagnosis, had become the last gift she would ever give him. She had scheduled the surgery for the next day precisely because she wanted to celebrate one last special day with him, just the two of them, before she died. But in the end, she had ruined it. He was so angry. He definitely wouldn't want to go out to dinner with her now. I'm not very good with words. Please don't be angry. I spent a long time preparing this gift. Aren't you going to open it? Liam coldly looked away, completely indifferent. Later, he fixed his gaze back on the computer screen, a silent dismissal. Amelia stared at him, a feeling of reluctance spreading through her heart. Tears silently streamed down her cheeks. Perhaps sensing she hadn't left, Liam suddenly looked up at her. The moment his eyes met hers, Amelia abruptly turned, walking out as she cried. At the doorway, she stopped, her hand tightening on the doorknob. Liam, my father is in the hospital. I have to stay with him tonight, so I won't be here to see you off tomorrow. She choked up, barely able to speak. It took her a long moment to force the words out. Have a safe trip. With that, she opened the door and left. Liam stared at the empty doorway, his brow furrowed deeply. When Amelia left the house with her suitcase, a light rain had started to fall. The car she'd hailed on her phone had arrived and was waiting by the curb, its lights flashing. Amelia looked back one last time at the house she had lived in for 2 years. When she turned away, her face was set with a new resolve. She pulled up her hood and walked into the rain. Goodbye, Liam. This chain called love has bound us for too long. Now I'm letting you go, and I'm letting myself go. May your life be smooth and happy from now on. 3 days later, Liam and the overseas company finally settled on the acquisition plan. Back in his hotel room, he leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes, resting for a long while before finally calling his assistant. Come here. Not long after he spoke, there was a knock on the door. Come in. His assistant, Greg, walked in. Mr. Hayes, you wanted to see me? Liam didn't open his eyes. Give me the report for the past few days. He had been so busy with the acquisition that Greg had been handling his phone. Of course. Greg began his report in a clear, organized manner. On the day we left for our trip, the hospital called to say they had found a match for Miss Sterling and would arrange the transplant surgery as soon as possible. Who is the donor? At the mention of the donor, a look of confusion crossed Greg's face. We don't know yet. The hospital said that because she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, she didn't want to reveal her identity or accept any money. I asked a contact I know there to look into it, but they couldn't find out anything either. I suspect she signed a confidentiality agreement with the hospital, and her information is sealed even from internal staff. Terminal cancer? Liam thought of the forged cancer report he had seen in Amelia's hospital room. It had also said terminal. His brow furrowed coldly, but then relaxed. That woman had always been in perfect health. How could she possibly have cancer? Pull some more strings. I need to know her identity. Even if she doesn't want compensation, find a way to give some to her family. Yes, sir. Continue. Greg relayed all the messages from the phone over the past few days, rattling them off in order of importance. As Liam listened, his cold expression slowly turned to impatience. Finally, he lost his patience and asked directly, Did my wife call? Greg's voice stopped abruptly. He searched his memory for a long moment before shaking his head. No. Yesterday, I called her because there was an unclear clause in the divorce agreement, but she didn't answer. She didn't reply to my text either. Hearing this, Liam's face darkened. On every other business trip, Amelia would call him at a set time every day to remind him to eat. This time, not a single call. And she was unreachable. What game was she playing now? Liam was silent for a moment, then asked, How are things with the Miller family? Amelia's maiden name, Greg's expression grew heavy. Not good. Mr. Miller is still in the hospital, in a coma. The fall didn't kill him, but he has multiple compound fractures and severe head trauma. there's a high probability he'll be in a vegetative state. The Miller family home has been seized and is up for auction. The creditors hire people to cause trouble there every day. Mrs. Miller has been the one dealing with it. As Greg spoke, he seemed to realize something. He paused and added, Mr. Hayes, with so much happening to her family, Mrs. Hayes not only has to be at the hospital, but also has to handle her family's affairs. She's probably just too busy to check her phone. Liam thought that was likely. He remained silent. In truth, ever since the Millers' company had run into trouble, he had been waiting for Amelia to come and beg him for help. But instead, she had asked for a divorce. And out of spite, he hadn't helped the Millers. But not helping then didn't mean he wouldn't help at all. Handle the Miller family's situation. Do it in my name and use my personal account. Yes, sir. After Greg left, Liam stared at his phone for a long time. For the first time in their 2-year marriage, he proactively called Amelia. But the seconds ticked by, and the phone just rang and rang. The moment the call automatically disconnected, his expression sank to a new low. Amelia, you've really outdone yourself. Liam tossed his phone aside, grabbed a robe, and went to take a shower. When he came out, he saw that Amelia hadn't called back. His face grim, he called Greg again. Book the earliest flight for tomorrow. We're going back. At 8 a.m. the next morning, the plane landed on schedule. Liam strode out of the VIP terminal. Behind him, Greg, who had just finished a call, jogged to catch up. Mr. Hayes, the hospital just called. Miss Sterling's surgery was a success, but Liam didn't break his stride, turning his head to look at him. Greg's voice was heavy. The donor didn't make it. She passed away just a little while ago. Liam's expression grew somber. He didn't say a word. As they exited the terminal, Greg asked, Mr. Hayes, should we go to the hospital to see Miss Sterling first? Liam glanced down at his phone. It was silent, still no activity. He put it away and turned to Greg. By the way, what about the security footage I asked you to pull? It took Greg a moment to process the question. He frowned slightly. Didn't Miss Sterling tell you? Tell me what? Liam was clearly unaware. Greg told him the truth. Not long after you called me that day, Miss Sterling called. She told me not to bother pulling the footage. She said you were just angry and that she could calm you down. She didn't want you to put Mrs. Hayes in a difficult position because of her. Technically, he should have called Liam back to confirm, but he had been rushing to a meeting and it had slipped his mind. He watched Liam's face carefully. Liam's calm expression hid a simmering rage. You seem to have forgotten who you work for. Greg quickly bowed his head. I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes. If it happens again, you're fired, to the hospital. Greg didn't dare delay. He jogged to the car and opened the back door. Once Liam was inside, he returned to the driver's seat and drove to the hospital. As they entered the hospital, a hearse was parked at the entrance. Several nurses were helping to push a gurney toward it. On the gurney was a body, completely covered by a white sheet. On some strange impulse, Liam slowed to a stop, turning to look at the hearse. Hearses, considered bad luck, couldn't linger. As soon as the body was loaded, it drove off. Liam watched it drive away, lost in thought for a long moment, before finally walking into the hospital. When he entered the VIP room, Sophia was lying in bed, scrolling through her phone. Her face was so rosy and healthy, you would never guess she had just come out of surgery. Seeing Liam, Sophia's eyes lit up. She immediately put down her phone and got out of bed to greet him. Liam, when did you get back? I texted you, but you didn't reply. I figured you were busy. She had just taken a step toward him when Liam held up a hand to stop her. Sophia looked at him, surprised. What's wrong? Liam took a step back, maintaining his distance, his cold eyes fixed on her face. The security footage. Aren't you going to explain? Sophia never expected him to question her about Amelia. She was stunned for a moment, then her eyes welled up with tears. She sat back down on the bed, her teary eyes on Liam. Explain what? What do you want me to explain? That I felt guilty. That I framed Amelia? In truth, her heart was pounding. She wasn't sure if Liam had seen the footage or not. But right now, she had no other choice but to deny everything. Liam hadn't expected her to get defensive first. Thinking maybe his tone was the problem, he tried to clarify. That's not what I meant. Then, what did you mean? You saw with your own eyes that Amelia pushed me, so why would you need to see the footage? Liam frowned. She wanted proof. She wanted proof, so you went to get it. Do you not trust your own eyes, or do you not trust me? Sophia's tears began to fall. Liam, do you know how scared I am? That car accident. It almost took everything from me. Right now, I really. She choked up, unable to continue, looking utterly heartbroken. I only have you left. I'm so scared of losing you. Finally, she collapsed onto the bed, burying her face in the covers, and began to sob. Liam watched her, his expression cold. He had always indulged Sophia because she had saved his life, but that didn't mean he was a fool. Remembering Amelia's reaction that day, the disappointment in her eyes, his face grew even darker. He had no interest in watching Sophia's performance, but considering her health, he didn't press the issue. Crying will strain your lungs. You just had surgery. Stop crying. Do you have enough money? Sophia slowly stopped crying and sat up, her eyes red as she looked at him. Not really. I saw a handbag I liked recently, but it's a bit expensive. How much? Sophia watched his expression and said hesitantly, even after the discount, it's $32,000. Liam took out his phone and tapped the screen a few times. A notification for a large transfer appeared on Sophia's phone. She looked at her phone, at the long string of zeros in the balance, and her expression grew complicated. Liam, did you transfer the wrong amount? This is enough to buy several. Liam looked at her. No. I'll be busy with work for the next few days and won't be able to visit often. Consider it compensation. Buy whatever you like. Liam, you're too good to me. Sophia looked at him, moved, and for a moment, she regretted getting angry at him. Liam spoke with her for a little while longer before getting up and leaving the room. After leaving the hospital, he went straight home. The house was empty. He went to the master bedroom. When he saw that all of Amelia's things were gone, his face darkened at a visible rate. A flicker of panic entered his usually calm eyes. He pulled out his phone and called Greg. You have 5 minutes. I want to know where Amelia is right now. As darkness fell, a torrential downpour began, the rain so heavy it seemed to threaten to drown the entire city. At the Miller family home, Susan was weeping as she sorted through Amelia's belongings. Just then the doorbell rang, sharp and urgent. Susan looked out at the curtain of rain, assuming it was the debt collectors again. Remembering what had happened the last few times she hadn't opened the door, she stopped what she was doing and went downstairs. When she opened the door, she was met with the terrifyingly cold face of Liam Hayes. Before she could speak, Liam strode inside. Where is she? Susan paused, her hand still on the door, and looked up. Who? Liam scanned the living room. Not seeing Amelia, he turned to meet Susan's eyes, his face full of displeasure. Who do you think? Susan asked uncertainly. Are you talking about? Amelia? Just saying Amelia's name was enough to make her burst into tears. Didn't the hospital notify you? Amelia was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer. She donated her heart to someone and passed away today. They took her straight from the operating table to the crematorium. Liam stood there, thunderstruck. As if he couldn't believe his ears, he stared blankly at Susan for a long moment, then turned and rushed upstairs. Soon, the sound of doors being slammed open echoed from the second floor. Liam was searching every room. Susan followed him, her legs weak. Seeing his frantic state, she broke down completely. Stop looking. Amelia is really gone. As cruel as I am, I would never use my daughter's death to lie to you. You. Her words were cut off as she saw Liam approaching, his face a mask of cold fury. She fell silent. Liam grabbed her by the shoulders, his eyes bloodshot, his voice squeezed from between his teeth, laced with rage. How much did she pay you to tell me this lie? Susan was terrified. I'm not lying, she cried. If you don't believe me, you can check with the hospital as family she's really gone. I'm going to ask you one last time. Where is she? Liam's roar cut her off. Tears streamed down Susan's face. To be forced to repeat that her daughter was dead, over and over, was too cruel. Liam Hayes, I am her mother. My grief is no less than yours in this short time. My company went bankrupt. Her father jumped from a building and is still in a coma. I can understand why she didn't tell her family about her illness, but what about you? Susan screamed hysterically. You were her husband, the person closest to her. Why did she forbid the hospital from even telling you she had died? What did you do to her? Liam's grip on her shoulders tightened. He stared at Susan, his eyes turning redder and redder. Yes, what unforgivable thing had he done? For her to go to her death and have him learn of it from someone else's lips? Amelia, how dare you? Liam's hands suddenly went slack. He slowly pulled them back. Susan was crying so hard she could barely stand, leaning against the railing for support. She kept wiping away her tears. The hospital staff said she came alone with a suitcase. Before she went into surgery, she gave them her final instructions. She said she didn't want to see people crying for her after she died, so she didn't want a funeral. She wanted to be cremated the same day she died. Liam's back went rigid. A mist formed in his eyes. He couldn't listen to this anymore. But Susan's sobbing words continued. Liam practically fled. Just as he stepped out of the house, his phone rang. It was Greg. "Mr. Hayes, I've confirmed it. The person who received the heart transplant for Miss Sterling. It really was Mrs. Hayes. The people at the funeral home said her ashes were purchased for a high price by a man named Shaw." His words were the last straw. The weight of it all crushed Liam, making it impossible to breathe. The phone slipped from his hand. It shattered on the ground, so the cancer was real. The stomach pain was real, the diagnosis was real. She had tried to explain over and over, and he had never once believed her. Liam stood in a daze in front of the house for a long time before finally stepping out into the rain. He was a drenched, pathetic mess. Suddenly, a pair of bright yellow headlights cut through the downpour. Liam stopped dead. His bloodshot eyes stared across the street. There, in the spot his gaze was fixed upon, Amelia was standing there, smiling at him. Her lips moved and her voice reached his ears. "Liam, you're late." "Amelia!" Liam's pupils constricted. He suddenly started walking toward her. The next moment, the street was filled with the screech of tires and the blare of horns. Several drivers, their hearts still pounding, pulled over and stuck their heads out their windows to curse at him. But Liam had already reached the other side of the street. He reached out his hand, wanting to pull Amelia into his arms, but she just smiled and vanished. His hand froze in midair. In an instant, a tidal wave of regret, sorrow, and despair surged up from the depths of his soul. A single tear rolled down Liam's cheek, then another and another and another, an unstoppable flood. At the Lakeview Villa, Amelia was woken by the sound of a door opening. She opened her eyes to darkness, with only a sliver of light coming from the hallway. Dr. Miles. The doctor, seeing the room was dark, had assumed she was still asleep and was about to leave. Hearing her voice, he turned back, holding the door open a little wider. "You're awake. Why are the lights off?" "Just woke up. Your phone was vibrating all afternoon. It died and shut off. Do you want me to charge it for you?" Amelia tried to push herself up, but her body felt too heavy, her arms too weak. She gave up. Remembering her plea to the doctor on the operating table, she whispered, "No need to charge it. I won't be using that phone anymore. You can dispose of it for me." Dr. Miles nodded. "Okay. I've already informed your family of your death and had your social security number deactivated. You're at my private villa now. The entire 10-mile radius is secured. Besides me, no one knows you're here. Not even my nephew." Amelia's voice was hoarse. "Dr. Miles, thank you. I'll find a way to repay you." Dr. Miles chuckled. "No need for repayment. If you hadn't agreed to test my new drug, I wouldn't have taken such a huge risk to do all this. In a while, once everyone has accepted your death, I'll get you a new identity. Testing the drug is one thing, but I won't restrict your freedom. For now, just focus on getting better." After he spoke, Dr. Miles closed the door and left. The bedroom was plunged back into darkness. Amelia lay in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. For a cancer patient, a heart transplant was a death sentence. The chances of surviving the surgery were minuscule. She had been sure she was going to die and had arranged everything accordingly. She never expected to live. But the cancer was still spreading, and now she had heart failure. In her current state, she wouldn't live for more than 2 months. So, before she was even off the operating table, Amelia had made a decision. A decision to leave in this way. She knew Dr. Miles was developing a new drug for colon cancer. She agreed to be his test subject, his guinea pig, in exchange for him helping her disappear from everyone's lives. Amelia's head grew heavy, and soon, she drifted back to sleep. Ethan Shaw never imagined that one day he would be surrounded in his own home by a group of black-suited bodyguards. He frowned, about to lose his temper, when he saw the bodyguards part to form a path. Liam Hayes, dressed in a black suit, emerged, his face cold and impassive. Ethan was furious. "Liam, are you insane? Where are my wife's ashes?" Liam asked, getting straight to the point. The word wife was like a dagger in Ethan's ear. He sneered, "You didn't bother calling her wife when she was alive. That time she fainted from anemia, I called you to come get her, and you couldn't be bothered. What, now that she's dead, you finally remember she was your wife? This belated affection is cheaper than dirt. She didn't want you to know about the cancer when she was alive, and she didn't want you notified when she died. What makes you think she'd want you to have her ashes?" With every word Ethan spoke, Liam's expression grew darker. Ethan watched him, a cruel satisfaction growing inside him, but it wasn't enough. He wanted to see Liam utterly broken. "That time she fainted, she got angry at me for calling you. She was so afraid you'd misunderstand. Liam, don't you have any idea how much Amelia loved you?" Liam froze. He looked up, his eyes filled with disbelief. "What did you say?" Ethan's lips curled in contempt. "I said she loved you, so much. She loved you so much she couldn't even bear the thought of you misunderstanding her. I admit, I liked her. I spent years trying to steal her from you, but unfortunately for me, she always rejected me. All that talk about her climbing into my bed, about me sleeping with her. I made it all up to save face." Liam looked as if he'd been struck. His face was a mask of agony, the regret in his heart growing heavier. His expression turned murderous. "While I'm still being civil, give me the ashes." Ethan tilted his chin up defiantly, meeting his gaze without a hint of fear. "And if I don't?" Liam had no more patience for words. He gave Greg a cold look. Greg stepped forward. "Mr. Shaw, my apologies." In the next moment, 2 bodyguards seized Ethan's wrists. His phone was confiscated. Search the bodyguards streamed into the villa, fanning out to every room. Ethan, unable to move, was practically exploding with rage. "Liam, you dare I swear I'll..." Liam cut him off coldly. "What, going to threaten me again? It seems your father hasn't told you. I've acquired every company under the Shaw Corporation umbrella. Now, even your father has to address me as Mr. Hayes. Do you really think you're in any position to threaten me?" The business trip he'd been on had been to finalize the acquisition of Shaw Corp. Ethan stared, stunned, clearly in disbelief. "Impossible acquire Shaw Corp? You?" Liam had no intention of arguing. "If you don't believe me, you can call and verify." He gestured with his eyes. The bodyguards immediately released Ethan and handed him his phone. Ethan glanced upstairs. Knowing he was outnumbered and couldn't stop the search, he took the phone with a dark expression. He walked to a corner and called his father. He didn't know what his father said, but his face grew uglier and uglier. Soon, Greg came downstairs, carrying Amelia's urn. Liam took it solemnly, cradling it in his coat, and turned to leave the villa. Ethan could only watch as he took the ashes. On the phone, his father's voice was still audible. "Son, patience is a virtue. One day, everything the Hayes family has will belong to the Shaws." Ethan hung up. Before, all he had wanted was Amelia. Now, he wanted Liam Hayes to lose everything. Liam had thought that getting the ashes back would ease the emptiness and pain in his heart. But not only did it not help, it also stripped him of his last shred of self-deception. Memories of the past flooded him, a relentless torrent that made it hard to breathe. He could only turn to alcohol to numb himself. The study was dark, the blackout curtains drawn. Glass after glass of strong liquor burned his stomach, but the more drunk he got, the clearer his mind became. Just then, a blue light flickered on in the corner of the desk. Liam's drunken eyes turned to see the miniature smart robot Amelia had given him. That day was their 2nd anniversary. She had even reminded him. She must have wanted to say a proper goodbye before she died. The heartache surged up again. He raised a hand to cover his eyes, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Amelia." His voice seemed to trigger something. The little robot turned its head toward him, a smiley face appearing on its screen. A synthetic, robotic voice spoke, playing contents of Amelia audio folder. Liam lowered his hand, his eyes fixed on the robot. Amelia's voice filled the room. "Liam, happy 2nd anniversary. I hope we're still together for our 50th. Liam, I don't have much time left. Why can't you even spare me a minute on the phone?" The first sentence was bright and cheerful, the second lost and lonely, as if she were talking to herself. A hole seemed to drill itself into Liam's heart. As he was drowning in grief, Amelia's voice came again. "Liam, why did you drink so much?" Liam's eyes widened. He whipped his head around. The next second, he heard his own drunken voice. "Did you know, if they can't find a heart donor match for her, I'll never be able to repay my debt. Don't worry. They'll definitely find one." How do you know they'll find one? Because you're the great Liam Hayes. Nothing is impossible for you. Whatever you want, whatever it is. If I have it, I'll give it to you with both hands. After that, there were no more words, but the sound of tearing fabric, heavy, suggestive breathing. Every sound was a torment to Liam's ears. He shot to his feet, but his drunkenness sent him stumbling back into the sofa. That night wasn't a dream. It was real, she had said. Whatever you want, if I have it, I'll give it to you with both hands. Even her heart. Liam was so heartbroken he could barely straighten up. After a moment, he pushed his broken body up from the sofa and staggered to the liquor cabinet. He took down 2 bottles, opened them, and drank straight from the bottle. In a drunken haze, he seemed to see Amelia again. But this time, he was terrified, not daring to get closer, afraid she would disappear like last time. For 5 days, Liam lived like this. He was lost in a dream of his own making, unwilling to wake up. Meanwhile, Sophia couldn't reach Liam and was frantic. Since she couldn't leave the hospital yet, she waited until after the nurse's rounds, changed her clothes, and snuck out. She took a cab to the villa. Liam had told her the security code for the door before. She entered the code, and the door opened smoothly. As she stepped into the living room, she saw Liam sitting at the dining table. On the table was a mousse cake. He was looking at the empty chair opposite him with a look of doting affection. "Liam, I've been calling you. Why didn't you answer?" Sophia said as she walked over. As she got closer, she smelled the strong scent of alcohol on him and frowned in distaste. Sophia's voice dragged Liam violently from his drunken dream. He blinked a few times. Seeing that the Amelia who had been sitting in the chair opposite him was gone, he turned to Sophia, his face etched with anger. "You're not welcome here. Get out." Sophia's face fell. She was about to speak when she saw the words written on the cake "Happy 26th birthday, Amelia." Sophia had only learned after her surgery that Amelia was her heart donor and had passed away. Now her face was a mixture of shock and rage. "You're celebrating Amelia's birthday. Do I need to escort you out myself?" Liam knew what she wanted to say, but he had no desire to hear it. His patience was gone. Sophia, as if oblivious to his anger, took a deep breath and said it anyway. "But she's dead." Screch, the chair scraped harshly against the floor. Liam walked to Sophia's side, his face dark. He grabbed her arm and began to drag her out of the house without another word. Sophia resisted with all her might. "Liam, is it because you know Amelia died giving me her heart that you feel guilty? Let me tell you, she did it on purpose. She already had cancer. She wasn't going to live long anyway. She orchestrated this whole thing just to make sure you'd never forget her." Seeing no reaction from Liam, she grew more and more frantic. "Liam, are you even listening to me?" But even as she screamed, Liam's face only grew darker, without any other reaction. At the door, he forcefully shoved her out. "Get out then." With a loud bang, he slammed the door shut. The electronic sound of the security code being changed followed from inside. Sophia stood at the door, stunned, for a long moment. Then, her eyes burned with hot tears. In truth, she had known from the beginning that Liam didn't love her. His attentiveness, his generosity, it was all just to repay a debt. After all, if she hadn't risked her life to save that witness, the man would have been killed in the car crash. Without that witness, Liam's father's case could never have been overturned. He would have spent the rest of his life in prison. And with a father with a criminal record, Liam would have been held back at every turn in the business world. He would never have become the all-powerful man he was today. At this thought, Sophia, tears streaming down her face, walked to the door and began to pound on it, each strike harder than the last. "Liam, if it weren't for me saving that man for you, would I be in this state now? You owe me so much, you have no right to love anyone else." She screamed herself hoarse. "How could you do this to me? Do you have any conscience at all?" She cried and yelled for what felt like an eternity, but there was no sound from inside. It wasn't until her phone rang that Sophia was pulled from her breakdown. She answered, her vision blurred with tears. "Hello." She didn't know what the person on the other end said, but her sobbing stopped abruptly. Fear washed over her face. In a state of extreme shock and disbelief, she used the door to pull herself to her feet, and stumbled away. At the Lakeview Villa. At the dining table, Amelia looked at the cake in front of her, then up at Dr. Miles, her face filled with surprise. "Dr. Miles, this is..." Dr. Miles sighed. A couple of days ago, my sister called me, complaining that my nephew has been making cakes in her kitchen every day, making a huge mess. I asked what it was about, and that's how I found out today is your birthday. As his uncle, I'm useless. I couldn't save the woman he loves, so I thought I could at least help him celebrate your birthday. Amelia knew that the nephew Dr. Miles was talking about was Ethan. With the cake in front of her, she couldn't refuse. She had to accept, okay. Do you mind if I record a video? My nephew is a stubborn one. This video can be a little memento for him. Perhaps afraid Amelia would refuse, Dr. Miles added the explanation. Amelia hesitated for a moment, but didn't refuse. At the end of the video, she even recorded a few words for Ethan, wishing, as if making a birthday wish, that he would let go of her and find his own happiness. Dr. Miles was very pleased with the video. He watched it once before putting his phone away. Eat the cake. Seeing him in a good mood, Amelia hesitated for a few seconds before carefully broaching a subject. Dr. Miles, there's something I'd like to discuss with you. Go on, Amelia said. Well, I studied screenwriting in college. Although I never worked for a company after graduating, I've actually been helping my professor write scripts. A couple of years ago, maybe because of my professor's reputation, or maybe I just got lucky, one of my original scripts was bought by a director. The show is starting to film in a couple of days, and I was wondering if I could be on set for a few days. If that's okay? Amelia had been hesitating about this for a long time. She knew that given her current situation and health, it wasn't a good idea to work. But she had poured so much of her heart into this project, and the thought of not being able to see it come to life left her with a sense of regret. Besides, her life had always revolved around Liam. Now, she wanted to experience what it was like to live for herself. Dr. Miles saw her cautious expression and sighed. Amelia, our arrangement is a transaction between equals. You don't have to walk on eggshells around me. This is your life. You can make your own decisions. I know, but the main reason I'm telling you this is, Amelia voiced her concern, if I'm on set, the drug testing might be inconvenient. Doctor. Miles was taken aback for a moment, then said awkwardly, you don't need to worry about that at all. The new drug in my lab isn't fully developed yet, and even when it is, it will have to be tested on animals thousands of times to ensure it's safe for human use before I'd ever give it to you. Don't worry. Amelia let out a sigh of relief. That's good to hear. After they finished the cake, Dr. Miles went to his room and brought her the new ID and personal file he had already prepared for her. Amelia created a resume and sent it to the production's hiring email. She received a call that same night. The interview was on Thursday at the coffee shop on the first floor of the Royal Court Hotel. Liam was drowning in a drunken haze every day. The liquor supply in the villa was quickly depleted. One day, he had just returned from buying more alcohol when he saw Greg standing at the entrance to the villa. Seeing him, Greg immediately walked over, his face full of concern. Mr. Hayes, are you okay? Okay? The moment Amelia died, the word okay had been permanently erased from his life. He was not okay, not at all. Liam didn't speak, just walked into the villa with the bags of liquor, his face a cold mask. Greg followed him. Miss Sterling called me. She said she saw you celebrating Mrs. Hayes's birthday. I've contacted a very reputable psychologist in the country. Would you like to talk to him? Liam stopped dead in his tracks, turning to glare at Greg. You think I'm sick? You think I need to see a psychologist? Of course, Greg wouldn't dare say Liam was sick. He phrased it carefully. No, of course I know you're not sick. You're like this because you just can't accept Mrs. Hayes's death yet. He watched Liam's expression. I suggested you talk to a psychologist to give you someone to talk to comfort you. Because some pain, when you keep it bottled up, only gets worse. I don't need it. If you have nothing else to do, you can leave. Liam, his face grim, refused without a second thought and dismissed him. Normally, Greg would have left, but he hesitated. The dead can't be brought back, and he didn't want to see his boss waste away like this. With that thought, he changed into slippers and followed him. Mr. Hayes, the reception at the Royal Court Hotel is on Thursday. Do you need me to arrange a date for you? The reception was a celebration for the successful acquisition and the beginning of a new strategic chapter for Hayes Corp. As the CEO, Liam had to be there. Liam frowned. No need. Okay, I'll drive over to pick you up then. Greg was about to leave, but then he remembered something else and spoke again. By the way, there's one more thing. A few days ago, I got word that the driver from that hit and run was released on parole. Should we do something about it? Liam continued to stock the liquor cabinet. Have someone follow him and put more people on Sophia Sterling in case he tries to retaliate. He paused for a second, then added in a heavy tone, "My wife's heart is inside Sophia. She's already gone. I will not allow anything to happen to her heart." Thursday arrived in a flash. The coffee shop on the first floor of the Royal Court Hotel. Across from Amelia sat a short, stout man with glasses, a plain face, and a balding head. This was Mark Jenkins, the director and producer of the show, The Statesman. Amelia had met him once before with her professor. She was surprised that a man so busy would conduct an interview himself. After listening to Amelia's self-introduction and her reasons for applying, Jenkins nodded in satisfaction. "Your major isn't in this field, but it's clear you're a devoted fan of the original script. Your understanding of it is even deeper than the screenwriters on my team." Amelia smiled humbly. "You're too kind." However, Jenkins' tone shifted. "While you understand the script, you're still looking at it from a reader's perspective. Filmmaking is more than just reading a script and empathizing with the characters." Amelia nodded. "I understand." The requirements for a screenwriter on a production team were high. You either had to be from a top film school with produced credits, or you had to be the original author of the adapted work. Her new identity had neither. The chances of her getting the screenwriter position were slim to none. If it weren't for the passion for the script she had expressed in her resume, she probably wouldn't have even gotten an interview. As she was thinking, Jenkins spoke again. "It's fate that we met. My team happens to be short a script supervisor. It's $60 a day, room and board included. If you're willing." "I am." Before Jenkins could finish, Amelia eagerly accepted. She wasn't in it for the money anyway. Jenkins had expected her to negotiate and had deliberately lowballed the daily rate. He was surprised she accepted so readily and wasn't sure what expression to make. "Well then, go home and pack. I'll send you the location details later. We start in 10 days. "Okay." After a little more small talk, Amelia said her goodbyes and left, but Jenkins didn't move. It seemed he was here for more than just the interview. He waited a little longer, and upon seeing a handsome figure enter the lobby, he immediately grabbed his briefcase and went to meet him. The man he was walking toward was none other than Liam Hayes. Dressed in an immaculate black suit, Liam exuded an aura of power. His striking, handsome features made everyone turn to look. Some women even took out their phones to sneak a picture. As he was walking in with a cold expression, a hand suddenly appeared in front of him. "Mr. Hayes, a pleasure." Liam slowed his pace and turned his head slightly, but didn't extend his hand. "Yes." Jenkins awkwardly retracted his hand. "My name is Jenkins. I'm the director and producer of the show, The Statesman. I sent a project proposal to your email a while back. I was wondering if you had a chance to look at it." Liam frowned. "How did you know I would be here today?" "I had to pull a lot of strings to find out," Jenkins answered vaguely, then brought the focus back to his project. The Statesman is a historical drama with a delicate, beautiful plot, full of twists. I'm certain it will be a huge hit once it's made. And after the script was adapted into a novel, it gained a huge, loyal online following. I just interviewed one of them. If you'd like, I can have her come over and tell you about the fan sentiment. Jenkins talked on, but Liam had lost patience. He shot a cold look at Greg and strode toward the elevators. Jenkins saw this and tried to follow, but was blocked by Greg. "I'm very sorry, but while our company is currently looking for potential investment projects, we have no plans to enter the film and entertainment industry at this time. Please leave." After he spoke, black-suited bodyguards came forward to escort Jenkins out. Jenkins sighed heavily and had no choice but to leave. However, he wasn't going to give up. He had at least made an impression. He had 10 days. If he was persistent, he was sure he could convince Mr. Hayes. At the reception, Liam exchanged a few pleasantries with several Target CEOs, collected their business cards, and then retreated to a corner to drink alone. But most of the people at the reception were there to network with him, and someone would inevitably come over to offer a toast from time to time. He accepted them all, drinking every glass. After a few rounds, a slightly overweight, middle-aged man who had been sitting near Liam since the beginning of the reception turned to him. "Mr. Hayes, can I ask you a question?" Liam turned his head. His eyes were slightly hazy from the alcohol, but he still recognized the man. Henry Crawford, CEO of a major AI tech firm. "Go ahead," Crawford asked. "You chose this corner, presumably to avoid drinking just like me. So why is it that you drink every time someone offers a toast, and even drink more than they do?" Hayes Corp has been doing very well these past couple of years, hasn't it? You shouldn't need to push yourself this hard. Liam's voice was muffled. "I'm not doing it for business. I just want a drink." Crawford was about to let the topic drop, but after a moment of silence, he asked another question. "Mr. Hayes, did you ever take your wife to the hospital for a checkup? Is she okay?" The sudden mention of Amelia made Liam's heart sink. "How do you know my wife was sick?" In their 2 years of marriage, he had never once brought Amelia to any business function. Crawford was surprised. "She really was sick. I didn't know for sure. About 6 months ago, she came to me, wanting me to customize a home robot for her. I noticed she didn't look well, so I suggested she go to the hospital." "How is she?" "Is it serious?" Amelia hadn't had a funeral. Only her family and a few close friends knew she had passed away. So Crawford had no idea. A wave of self-blame washed over Liam. His face was a mask of agony. A stranger could see something was wrong, but he, her husband, had been completely blind. He was in pain for a long moment before he managed to murmur, "So that robot was from your company." Speaking of which, Crawford also found it strange. "When she first came to me, she didn't say she was your wife. The requirements she had were so complex, I initially refused. But a few days later, she came back and told me she was your wife. This robot was something she had been planning for half a year, a gift for your wedding anniversary. You know, your company gave us our first round of funding. I couldn't really say no." The more Crawford recalled, the more he remembered. "Your wife was incredibly patient. She listed out all your habits, your likes and dislikes. There were over 1,000 items on that list. Mr. Hayes, I can't say for sure about other things, but one thing I am certain of, besides your wife, Sophia one is the one who knows you best." Liam stared at Crawford, his pain evident in his expression. "You're saying the robot is called Sophia one?" Crawford nodded. "Yes, it was originally going to be called Amy one, but just before it was finished, she suddenly asked to change the name to Sophia one." Liam didn't hear anything else he said. He just felt something inside his chest shatter. He had never loved Sophia. He had just used her to spite Amelia, to torture her with the thought that he loved someone else. He never imagined that she would go to her death believing he truly loved Sophia. And to save his supposed true love, she had even given Sophia her own heart. The pain in Liam's chest was so intense he couldn't stay a moment longer. He shot to his feet and walked out without a word. After leaving the hotel, he didn't go back to the villa. He took a cab to a bar. He booked the top VIP room and had the waiter bring in cases of liquor. The waiter didn't know who Liam was. After bringing in the third case and seeing the way he was drinking, he got scared someone would die and quickly called his manager. In the end, it was the manager who recognized Liam and called Greg to come and pick him up. Amelia, on the large bed, Liam shouted her name and shot upright. His eyes were wide, his hand outstretched in the air, as if trying to grasp something that wasn't there. After a long, stunned moment, he slowly lowered his hand, his face a mask of pain. The chasm between his dreams and reality was a crushing weight. He sat on the bed for a while longer, recognizing he was in the bedroom of their house. He threw off the covers, grabbed a towel, and went into the bathroom. He soaked in the tub for a while, but the regret and despair didn't lessen. His gaze fell on the fruit knife resting by the side of the tub. After a moment, he reached for it and drew it across his chest. Only when his body was in extreme pain could he find a moment's relief from the agony in his heart. When Greg entered the bathroom, this was the sight that greeted him: a broken, wounded Liam. The water in the tub was stained red with blood. He dropped the sobriety pills he was holding and rushed to the tub. "Mr. Hayes, what are you doing? If Mrs. Hayes saw you like this, she would be heartbroken, but she'll never see." Liam slowly opened his eyes, his gaze filled with a cold, restrained anger. "Get out!" Greg looked at his chest, covered in a horrifying tapestry of old and new wounds. His eyes reddened. "Let me take you to the hospital." I said get out. Liam's patience had run out. He stared at him, his eyes like ice. Greg stood there for 2 minutes, his eyes red, before finally turning to leave. He took out his phone, went downstairs, and called Liam's grandfather. Old Mr. Hayes arrived with alarming speed. When he walked into the bathroom and saw the wounds on Liam's body, his beard trembled with rage. "You damn fool, just because a woman died, you're trying to kill yourself. Are you trying to send me to an early grave?" Liam sat up in the tub, frowning. "Grandpa!" Old Mr. Hayes cut him off with a roar. "Don't call me that. I have no such unfilial grandson. Get up right now and get yourself to the hospital." Liam got up, his face cold, and wrapped a towel around his waist. "I'm not going. You dare defy me. How many times do you expect me to bury my own flesh and blood?" The old man slammed his cane on the floor, giving him an ultimatum. "I'm telling you, today, you're going whether you like it or not." Liam's face grew darker. He tried to reason with him. "Grandpa, I'm fine. They're just superficial wounds." The old man was fuming, his beard practically standing on end. He was done with words. He shot a furious glare at Greg. "Go find some men. Even if you have to knock him out and tie him up, you will get him to that hospital today." "Yes." Ignoring Liam's threatening glare, Greg acknowledged the order and went to get help. Liam's face was a study in grim fury. At the hospital, after the doctor examined him, he prescribed some antiseptic powder and scar cream. Then he spoke to old Mr. Hayes in a grave tone, explaining that this was just a temporary fix and strongly recommending that Liam see a psychologist. But Liam's stance was firm. He refused. Old Mr. Hayes yelled at him in the hospital room all morning. Finally, feeling somewhat vented, he allowed himself to be helped out. After he left, Greg hesitated at the door for a long time before quietly entering. Liam's face was cold, his sharp eyes fixed on him. "You're the one who called my grandfather." Greg knew he was in for it, but remembering the call he had just received, he thought he might be able to save himself. "Yes. But Mr. Hayes, I was genuinely worried about you, by the way. The men I had following that hit and run driver just called. They said that after Joe was released from prison, he went back to Miss Sterling's home." The anger on Liam's face vanished, replaced by disbelief. He confirmed again, "Whose home did you say he went back to?" "Miss Sophia Sterling's home. The apartment in South Bay." Greg was very specific, leaving no room for doubt. Sophia's old apartment had been a rental. After the accident and her hospital stay, the landlord had taken it back. After that, Liam had bought her a large condominium in the South Bay district. South Bay was a neighborhood favored by celebrities and the wealthy, so security was extremely tight. Without a resident's permission, a stranger couldn't even get into the complex. Liam wasn't a fool. He knew what this implied. His face darkened. "How is her recovery?" He didn't use Sophia's name, but Greg knew who he was asking about. "She's recovering well. I just asked the doctor. Miss Sterling can be discharged in 3 days after her follow-up." "Good," Liam said. "Find a place. Bring Joe and Sophia there." "Yes, sir." Greg turned to leave, but after a few steps, he stopped and turned back. "Mr. Hayes, I believe you had more to say earlier." He was referring to the matter of calling old Mr. Hayes. It wasn't that he wasn't scared, but he figured it was better to face the music now. If he let it go, Liam might bring it up later, and then he'd truly be done for. Liam looked away coldly. "Don't let it happen again." "Thank you, Mr. Hayes." Greg let out a long sigh of relief and left, a look of joy on his face. Greg handled the matter quickly. That evening, at an abandoned junkyard on the outskirts of the city, the moment Liam walked in, he saw a man and a woman tied up on the ground. Their eyes were blindfolded, and their mouths were sealed with black tape. Liam walked over slowly and sat down on a stool in front of them. He gave a cold nod. Someone immediately stepped forward and removed their blindfolds. Sophia was crying silently, her face a picture of tragic beauty. But the moment she saw Liam, all expression on her face turned to shock. In contrast, the man Joe seemed much calmer. Liam sat on the chair, his cold gaze fixed on them, his voice devoid of any warmth. "Did you two know each other before the car accident?" Joe calmly shook his head. Sophia, after closing her eyes for a moment, also shook her head. Liam's lips curved into a smile. He took a file from Greg and tossed it in front of them. Sophia's eyes fell on the words "adoption agreement." Her face instantly went pale with fright. She looked up at Liam. Liam let out a cold laugh, slowly rising from his chair. He glanced down at her contemptuously before looking away. Greg, burn this place down. Say that Joe set the fire to die with Sophia. I doubt anyone will question it. Sophia's eyes widened. She struggled to scream at Liam. MMMPH. Liam's intention wasn't to kill, but to intimidate. Seeing her terror, he paused. Greg, ever perceptive, stepped forward and ripped the tape from Sophia's mouth. Ignoring the pain, Sophia immediately cried out, "He's my stepfather, Liam. Amelia's heart is inside me even if you don't want me. You don't want her, do you?" She admitted it. She was terrified of death. Before, when Joe had tortured her, she had often wished for death. But now she had money and someone she loved. She wanted to live a normal life. Liam seemed to be swayed by her words. He walked back, his eyes filled with an icy chill. "Of course I want her heart. But I only listen to the truth. If you dare to tell a single lie, that heart will be cut out of your body and you will still die. Understand?" From the day she received the call that her stepfather was being released, Sophia knew this day would come. She closed her eyes in resignation and nodded heavily. "I understand. I promise everything I say will be the truth. Joe, he's my stepfather. Because my mother never legally married him, after she died, he went and filed for adoption." Sophia recalled the rainy night before the accident, her voice choked with sobs. "That day, I heard him on the phone, talking about faking a drunk driving accident to kill someone for $100,000. Every time he got drunk, he would beat me. When he was out of money, he would force me to work the streets. I couldn't live like that anymore. I waited for him to fall asleep, looked at his phone, found out his plan, and then rushed to that spot to stage a rescue. I thought, even if I really got hit and died, at least I would be free. But if I was lucky enough to survive, I would have one." Joe, remembering how Sophia had explained with the most innocent expression in the apartment that she had only rushed out because she was worried about him, looked at her in shock. He admitted he was no saint, that he had done terrible things to her. But he had also, in his own way, taken care of her. He had fed her, clothed her, even sent her to school. And she had plotted against him like this. Sophia, unnerved by his stare, sold him out completely. "Liam, I remember the contact for the person who hired him was saved as X. He definitely knows who that person is, right?" Liam's furious gaze turned to Joe. Seeing his expression, he knew he wouldn't get anything out of him and didn't waste his breath. He ordered coldly, "Greg, compile Sophia's testimony and give it to the police. Then take Joe in. As for her..." Liam's gaze fell on Sophia. Suddenly, he remembered Sophia won back at the house. A wave of disgust washed over him. Sophia shuffled on her knees to his side, grabbing his pant leg and begging. "Liam, for the sake of Amelia's heart, take me back to the villa. I told you everything in front of him. If he gets out again, he'll kill me." The last time, Joe had been sentenced to 20 years for drunk driving and assault, but he was released in 2. Someone was clearly helping him. This time, he might get out quickly too. Right now, the only safe place was by Liam's side. Liam emotionlessly moved his leg away and pinched the bridge of his nose. "Take her to the villa." "Yes, sir." Greg immediately had someone handle it. He then drove Liam back to the hospital. The next morning, Liam had just finished being berated by his grandfather on the phone when he saw Mark Jenkins walk in, carrying a briefcase and 2 large fruit baskets, a broad smile on his face. "Mr. Hayes, I heard you were unwell. I came to visit. Are you all right?" Liam's brow furrowed. His cold, displeased gaze shot to Greg, his voice squeezed from between his teeth. "Find out who is so well informed about my whereabouts. Once you find them, get rid of them." Greg's mouth twitched. Just as he was about to investigate, Jenkins grabbed his arm, his face still turned toward Liam. "Don't, Mr. Hayes, I was here yesterday visiting a friend and happened to see you coming from the clinic. You were surrounded by bodyguards, it was hard not to notice. And your room is easy to find, there are bodyguards outside." That was true. Yesterday, old Mr. Hayes, afraid Liam would try to run off, had assigned a large number of bodyguards to him. Seeing the anger on Liam's face lessen, Jenkins pressed his advantage. "Mr. Hayes, I brought the script with me today. Honestly, I know I'm annoying you, but my show is about to start filming. If the funding gets cut halfway through, my entire crew will be out of work. Just give me 10 minutes. Just look at the premise of the script. If you still think it's no good after reading it, I promise I will never bother you again. Please, honestly, no one could withstand that level of persistence. Liam, his face dark, lifted his wrist and glanced at his watch. 5 minutes. Jenkins was ecstatic. He quickly put down the fruit baskets, took out his laptop, and opened it. He opened the script and placed the laptop in front of Liam. Liam scanned a few lines. He suddenly felt that the male lead's character was strangely similar to him. He continued reading. For some reason, even though it was a historical drama, as he read, the hurtful words he had once said to Amelia surfaced clearly in his mind. His heart felt like it was soaking in acid, sour and swollen. "Who wrote this?" Jenkins quickly replied. "It's from Arthur Cheng's studio. You know, the Arthur Cheng who has a hit with every show he makes. He's the head writer." Liam looked up at him, his face frozen over. "His studio's name is on the front page of the script. Do you think I'm blind or illiterate? I'm asking you which writer from his studio wrote this." Jenkins was at a loss for words for a moment. "Well, you've got me there. Most of the writers in Mr. Cheng's studio are his students. A single script probably isn't written by just one person." He was telling the truth. Scripts credited to a studio were usually the result of brainstorming sessions and collaborative writing, rarely the work of a single writer. "Well, how about I call Mr. Cheng and ask?" Seeing no reaction from Liam, he took out his phone and stepped outside to make the call. Liam knew of Arthur Cheng. Amelia had studied screenwriting in college, and Cheng had been her mentor. The male lead in the script was just too much like him. Could there be such a coincidence in the world? As Liam was lost in thought, Jenkins returned. "Sorry, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Cheng must be busy," he didn't answer. "If you're willing to wait, I can drive over to see him right now." Liam was silent for a long moment, then asked, "How much money does your show still need?" Jenkins' heart tightened. He said gravely, "Because the previous investor kept trying to force actors into the show, the script was rewritten many times and ended up straying far from the original concept. I unilaterally terminated the contract with him. Including the breach of contract penalty I have to pay, we're still short $800,000. It was a low-budget show and didn't require a lot of money, but the penalty was a huge sum." "Transfer the money to him," Liam said to Greg, without a moment's hesitation. Not only was Greg stunned, but Jenkins was also baffled. He asked, shocked, Mr. Hayes, you're going to invest in my show?" Liam's face returned to its previous icy state. "Is there a problem?" "No, not at all, but shouldn't we discuss some terms first?" It wasn't that Jenkins didn't trust Liam. He was just scarred from his experience with the previous investor. Liam said coldly, "I'll agree to all of your conditions, unconditionally. I only have one condition: have the original writer of this script come and see me. I want to hear about the creative inspiration for the script, especially for the male lead." Jenkins agreed immediately. "Okay, no problem. As soon as we sign the contract, I'll go find Mr. Cheng." Greg made a few calls, and soon the company's legal team arrived with the contract and the company seal. Right there in the hospital room, they signed the contract, with an addendum detailing the condition Liam had just mentioned. Jenkins carefully put the contract away, said his goodbyes, and left. Greg walked him to the elevator. While waiting for the elevator, Jenkins asked Greg, "Is Mr. Hayes' illness serious? What did the doctor say?" Greg thought for a moment. Considering their future collaboration, he told him the truth. "It's not really an illness. Mr. Hayes' wife passed away a while ago. He's having a hard time accepting it and is having some psychological issues." The elevator arrived as he was speaking. Hearing his words, Jenkins's steps into the elevator faltered. He turned back, his face a picture of shock. "Mr. Hayes is so young. His wife must have been young too. How did she pass away so suddenly?" "Cancer." Jenkins's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. 10 days passed in a blur. Because the filming location was far from the city, for the safety of the crew, Jenkins rented 2 large buses to transport everyone together. The bus swayed and rattled for nearly 6 hours before reaching the location. As soon as they arrived, everyone began to disembark. Amelia, sitting in the back row, wasn't in a hurry. She waited until most people were off before slowly getting up to get her bag from the overhead rack. However, as she pulled her bag down, an envelope fell out. Puzzled, she bent down to pick it up. Inside the envelope was a thick stack of cash. Amelia suddenly remembered that when Dr. Miles had seen her off that morning, he had insisted on carrying her bag for her. Because her identity had been erased, her bank cards were all useless. She had thought that since she wouldn't be on set for long, not having money wouldn't be a big deal, so she hadn't asked Dr. Miles for any. She never expected him to secretly give her cash. She held the envelope, a wave of gratitude washing over her. The production coordinator, seeing that Amelia hadn't gotten off the bus, came over, her face and tone unpleasant. "You're the new script supervisor, right? What are you dawdling for? The actors with scenes today are already in makeup. Get a move on. I'm coming." Amelia quickly pushed her thoughts aside, put the money back in her bag, and hurried off the bus. After dropping her luggage in her room, she didn't dare delay. She picked up her continuity binder and rushed to the set. Fortunately, filming hadn't started yet. After she had noted down everything for the first scene, she stood with the other idle crew members to rest. In the quiet, she could hear the people next to her talking. "Our director Jenkins is something else, finding an investor right before filming starts. If it were me, I'd be too anxious to even eat." "That's why he's the director, and you're not." "But who's the investor? After what happened with the last guy, someone still dared to invest in him." "I heard from Jenkins's confidant that this investor is some young, handsome, and rich heir. Oh, and I think he's coming to inspect the set on Saturday." Inspecting the set after only a week of filming. That's terrifying. Amelia had no idea the investor was Liam. She just listened to it as gossip. Soon, filming began. Everyone scattered to their positions. When Amelia had work to do, she would be engrossed in her notes. When she didn't, she would stand to the side, holding her binder, and watch the actors. When she felt an actor's emotional delivery or line reading was off, she would make a note of it. Time flew by when she was busy. Friday evening arrived in a flash. After the crew wrapped for the day, Amelia returned to her room, organized the week's continuity sheets in chronological order, and took the folder to Jenkins's room. She wanted to use the opportunity to tell him about some issues she had noticed with the lead actors' performances that week. When she got to Jenkins's room, Amelia knocked. Knock, knock, knock. After a short wait, the door was opened from the inside. Jenkins was on the phone. Seeing Amelia, he stepped aside to let her in. Amelia walked in. Jenkins closed the door while still on the phone. He seemed to be responding to something the person on the other end said, his face a mixture of resignation and apology. "It's really not that I'm not following the contract. I asked Mr. Cheng. He said the script was an original work by one of his students, but he can't get in touch with her now. Her family isn't answering his calls either. Mr. Cheng is planning to visit her home next week." Mr. Cheng. Amelia turned to look at Jenkins. The only script she knew of that director Jenkins was collaborating on with Mr. Cheng was her own, The Statesman. Jenkins's voice continued. Yes, I'll definitely keep this in mind. I've already arranged a hotel room for you. You can just give the front desk your name when you arrive." He then said, a few more times, waiting for the other person to hang up before he dared to lower his phone. "Chloe, what can I do for you?" Amelia snapped back to reality and quickly handed him the folder. "I'm here to give you this week's continuity reports. The coordinator said they need to be submitted weekly." Jenkins took it and flipped through a couple of pages. "Good notes." He was praising her when he suddenly got to the last few pages. His expression darkened. "What's this?" Amelia knew that directors of his stature disliked having their expertise questioned. She chose her words carefully. "These are just a few things I noticed about the lead actors' performances this week that felt a little off. But this is just my opinion as a reader and a viewer. I'm not a professional, so please don't laugh. I just know how high your standards are for this show, and you've been so approachable, so I felt bold enough to show you this." Jenkins's expression softened considerably. "Don't worry, I won't laugh. I'll take a serious look at this." Amelia breathed a sigh of relief. "Director Jenkins, you're a true gem." Flattered, Jenkins even walked Amelia to the door. As they neared the door, Amelia, remembering the phone call, turned to him. "Director, I overheard your call just now. Is someone important coming to the set?" "It's the investor. He said he wants to come and see how filming is progressing. He's already on his way." Perhaps thinking Amelia was unimportant, Jenkins let out a heavy sigh and started to complain. "I can't figure out what these investors want anymore. The one before was obsessed with pretty actresses. The one I just broke the contract with was constantly trying to shove his mistresses into the cast, and this new one is fixated on the screenwriter. Amelia. But Mr. Hayes is a tragic figure. His wife just passed away. Maybe he wants the screenwriter to adapt their story into a script to commemorate her. Mr. Hayes, putting aside how many powerful investors named Hayes there were in the city, the fact that his wife had just passed away. It could only be Liam. Amelia gave a self-mocking smile. Or maybe he wants to adapt his story with someone else. After all, men like him are known for throwing money around to woo women, aren't they? Director, I'll be heading back to my room now. The last sentence was said with a smile, but Amelia knew the smile on her face was probably uglier than a grimace. She dragged her heavy feet back to her room. She spent the whole time trying to figure out how to ask for a day off tomorrow. Although Liam didn't care about her, she was technically a dead person. If her faked death was exposed, it would surely implicate Dr. Miles. As she was thinking, she heard footsteps approaching from the opposite direction. She casually looked up, and her eyes met the cold, handsome face of Liam Hayes. Perhaps sensing her gaze, Liam suddenly turned his head, his eyes locking with hers. The moment their eyes met, Amelia's heart skipped a beat, then began to race uncontrollably. Blood rushed from her feet to her head, and a sense of suffocation filled every pore of her body. She quickly looked down, but Liam's gaze remained fixed on her. As they passed each other, he deliberately slowed his steps, then stopped. He turned his head, his eyes following her figure, until she disappeared at the end of the hallway. Liam looked away, a deep frown creasing his brow. When Greg arrived with the things he had bought, this was the expression he saw, as if something terrible had happened. He followed Liam's gaze down the hall, confused. "What's wrong, Mr. Hayes?" Liam snapped back to reality. "Did you see anyone when you came up?" "No. I heard Director Jenkins's crew starts work at 3 or 4 in the morning. They're probably all asleep by now." As Greg spoke, he seemed to realize something. He stopped abruptly and looked at Liam. "Mr. Hayes, did you see Mrs. Hayes again?" "Yes." It had only been for 3 seconds, but Amelia's face was etched into Liam's mind. He couldn't have been mistaken. A heavy weight settled in his chest, making it hard to breathe. Greg was extremely worried. "Mr. Hayes, your episodes are getting more serious. Maybe you should consider seeing that psychologist. This can't go on." Liam gave him a silent look, said nothing, and turned to walk away. He didn't want to be cured, because this way, at least he could still see her, pretend she was still by his side. Amelia rushed back to her room and fumbled with the lock. She stood by the door for a moment, making sure Liam hadn't followed her, before letting out a long sigh of relief. But then, a self-mocking smile touched her lips. Her earlier fear was ridiculous, completely unnecessary. After all, even when Liam had seen her face to face, he hadn't bothered to confirm if it was really her. Perhaps he preferred her dead. A knot of frustration tightened in Amelia's chest. She sat on the edge of her bed and sent a text to Jenkins, asking for a day off. She wasn't asking for leave because she was afraid of being discovered by Liam, but simply because she didn't want to see him. Jenkins replied quickly. "Okay, I'll have someone else cover your work. Rest well, drink lots of water." He was surprisingly accommodating. Amelia sent back a nodding emoji. Perhaps freed from the mental burden, Amelia slept until the evening of the next day. When she woke up, she lay in bed scrolling through her phone. When she was finally too hungry to ignore it, she ordered takeout. Then she got up to wash her face. Because the actors were also staying at the hotel, for their safety, the hotel didn't allow delivery drivers to come up to the rooms. So, delivery drivers usually called when they were about to arrive to save time. Just as Amelia finished washing up, the call came. Because she wasn't wearing makeup, she put on a mask and went downstairs. However, the moment she pushed open the hotel door, she saw Liam standing outside. Her steps faltered. Just then, her delivery driver arrived, parking his electric scooter right in front of Liam. "Chloe Chen, your food is here." Amelia wanted to get her food, but she really didn't want to walk up to Liam. The driver called out a few more times. Getting no response, he assumed she hadn't come down yet and took out his phone to call. Amelia had no choice but to walk over, her head down. "That's mine." The moment she spoke, a look of surprise flashed across Liam's face. He turned to look at her. Amelia was in despair. She could cover her face, but she couldn't change her voice. And to make matters worse, the delivery driver wasn't about to let it go. "I called you several times, didn't you hear me? Do you have any idea how much this delays my next delivery?" Amelia took the food with both hands, her face full of apology. "I'm so sorry, I was a bit distracted. I'll send you a tip later." "No need for a tip, just give me a good review." Seeing her sincere attitude, and that she was just a young woman, the driver didn't press the issue. He got on his scooter and left. After he was gone, Amelia ignored Liam's gaze and turned back to the hotel. As she entered, Greg was just coming out from the other side. "Mr. Hayes, it's all arranged. The hotel will have this room cleaned every day. You can stay here whenever you like." Liam stared in the direction Amelia had gone, his expression darkening. "Postpone the corporate meeting. I'm staying one more day," and he paused for a few seconds before continuing. "Go to Jenkins and get a copy of the crew's personnel files." "Okay," Greg was confused, but he agreed. After the unexpected encounter with Liam, Amelia lost her appetite. She picked at her food for a few minutes before throwing it out. She stared into space for a while, then ran her hands through her hair in frustration. The production was too small, the chances of running into him were too high. Once or twice was one thing, but if he started coming here regularly, the chances of being discovered were too great. Just then, her phone rang, breaking her train of thought. She looked at the caller ID and answered. "Director Jenkins." Jenkins's voice came through the phone. "Chloe, are you in your room?" "I am." "Here's the situation. Mr. Hayes is about to leave, and the production team wants to write a promotional piece about his visit. One part of it is him greeting the staff. Since everyone else is still filming, and you're the only one at the hotel, could you get ready? We're coming over now. It's just a few photos, don't feel pressured." Jenkins hung up before she could respond. Amelia was thunderstruck. A photo with Liam? How could she not feel pressured? Without a moment's hesitation, Amelia jumped up and started packing her suitcase. It didn't matter if she was discovered, but Dr. Miles had helped her so much. She couldn't drag him down with her. However, just as she zipped up her suitcase, she heard a noise from outside her door. She looked toward the door, her face a mask of shock. As the people outside got closer, Jenkins's voice became clearer. "Mr. Hayes, this is Chloe, the reader I told you about when we first met. She's a great young woman. She's on sick leave today, that's why she's not on set. Here we are, this is her room." As his words faded, Amelia heard a knock on the door. To her, the sound was like a death knell. Amelia closed her eyes, got up to put on her mask, and after checking herself in the mirror several times, she slowly, reluctantly, went to open the door. However, just as her hand touched the doorknob, she heard a phone ring from outside. Her hand froze. Then, she heard Liam and Jenkins saying their goodbyes. Only after she heard the footsteps receding did she open the door. Seeing that Liam was really gone, she let out a sigh of relief. "I'm so sorry, Director. I was a little slow getting dressed." Jenkins, remembering she was sick, didn't blame her. "Mr. Hayes had an urgent personal matter to attend to. We probably can't do the photos today. Are you feeling any better?" A personal matter. It had to be Sophia. But this time, Sophia had inadvertently done her a huge favor. Amelia's eyes curved into a smile. "Much better, thank you for asking, Director." "That's good." Jenkins made some small talk and was about to leave, but after a couple of steps, he seemed to remember something and turned back. "By the way, Chloe." Amelia, who was about to close the door, paused and opened it again. "What is it, Director?" Jenkins stood at her doorway. "You don't need to do the script supervision work anymore. From now on, you'll be my personal fact-checker and continuity consultant. I'm doubling your daily pay. If you do well, you can come work at my company as a screenwriter later." He not only promoted her but also painted a bright future for her. Amelia pressed her lips together. "I'm a little overwhelmed." Jenkins smiled. "It's not for no reason. When Mr. Hayes was here, he watched this week's footage, and the issues he pointed out were almost identical to what you wrote down. I later had a few friends in the industry take a look, and they confirmed the problems. Sometimes, when I'm in the thick of filming, it's easy to get tunnel vision. I need someone to help me catch these things." For a moment, Amelia's feelings were complicated. She had just decided to resign. This time she had been lucky, but a person can't be lucky forever, especially her. A few more incidents like this, and her heart failure would probably get worse. But the job Jenkins was offering was very tempting. After much deliberation, Amelia agreed. Okay. If I say something wrong in the future, please don't hesitate to correct me. Jenkins was very pleased with her attitude. He praised her a bit more and then left. Amelia closed the door. She told herself, 1 more month at most. Maybe not even a month. Once the lead actors have a firm grasp of their characters, I'll leave. Meanwhile, Liam got into the car, his face dark with anger. 3 hours later. The car stopped in front of a boxing gym in the city. Greg got out and opened the back door for Liam. Mr. Hayes, we're here. Liam slowly opened his eyes, glanced at the gym, and got out. As they walked in, the manager quickly came to greet them. I'm so sorry, Mr. Shaw has booked the entire gym for this period. We're not open to the public. Perhaps you could try another place? Liam stopped, his handsome eyes devoid of any warmth. I'm here to see Ethan Shaw. Well, the manager looked troubled. Perhaps you could give me a business card, and I can go ask. If it were anyone else, he would have just sent them away. But this man, exuding an air of nobility, did not look like someone to be trifled with. Liam's face grew colder. Greg, seeing this, waved his hand. In an instant, black-suited bodyguards poured in, forming 2 lines and surrounding the gym. Even the manager was cordoned off. Liam strode inside. The vast, empty gym was dark, with only a single light illuminating one of the rings. Ethan Shaw was in the ring, fully geared up, his face a mask of murderous intent. His sparring partner was already bruised and swollen. Seeing someone enter, Ethan glanced over coldly. When he saw Liam, there was no surprise on his face. It was as if he had been expecting him. Liam stopped at the edge of the ring, looking up at him, his voice icy and distant. Where is Joe? Ethan scoffed. As expected of the great Liam Hayes. I just had my lawyer bail him out and you're already here. I was the one who hired him to kill that witness. If you want revenge, you should be coming after me. He walked to the edge of the ring, looking down at Liam, his eyes cold and sinister. What, are you afraid he'll kill Sophia? But Amelia is dead. Someone has to pay for that. The words Amelia is dead grated on Liam's ears, especially hearing them from Ethan, spoken as if he were Amelia's husband. In that moment, all the dark, painful emotions of the past few weeks surged up from the depths of Liam's soul. I'll ask you one more time, where is Joe? Ethan met his gaze without a hint of fear. I won't tell you where he is, but he deliberately drew out the words, tilting his chin up in a taunting gesture. If you agree to a death match with me, and you survive, I can tell you why Amelia broke up with you back then. A death match. As the name implied, in this fight, there were no rules and no legal repercussions, even if one of them was killed. Greg frowned deeply. Just then, Liam moved. He slowly climbed into the ring and stood opposite Ethan, his voice cold and deliberate. Fine, as long as you keep your word. Of course. A smirk touched Ethan's lips. He gestured to the staff to get Liam's gear. Once Liam was ready, the referee stepped into the ring and signaled the start. Ethan struck first. Liam dodged the punch and countered with a fist to Ethan's face. You can start talking now. Ethan's cheek stung. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his finger and let out a cold laugh, swinging again. I set up the trap to frame the Hayes family. Did you really think you could just find a witness that easily? Liam, distracted by his words, took a solid punch to the face. He shook his head to clear it and forced himself to stand straight. And I was the one who told her. Liam had always thought he was the victor, the one in control. But in the end, even the most crucial piece of the puzzle had been handed to him by his rival. The blow was devastating. Ethan, seeing his reaction, was immensely satisfied. He didn't hold back, landing another punch. Before that, she was my slave for 2 weeks, begging me, pleading with me. And the condition for me telling her was that she had to break up with you, and she had to keep it a secret. Liam, why do you think your father insisted you marry her on his deathbed? Because she was worth it. Liam was knocked to the ground. He stared blankly at the lights above, feeling as if he were about to die from the pain in his heart. At that time, if he had just asked his father one more question, perhaps he wouldn't have misunderstood Amelia for so long. Rage ignited in Ethan's eyes. He walked over and grabbed Liam by the collar. Look at how Amelia treated you, and look at how you treated her, Liam. You were never worthy of her love, he roared, then began to rain punches down on Liam. And Liam, he didn't dodge, didn't flinch. It was as if he couldn't feel the pain. Even when he started coughing up blood, he showed no reaction. The boxing match devolved into a one-sided beating. Finally, Greg couldn't take it anymore and called a stop to the fight. He had his men forcefully carry Liam away. Liam had been conscious the whole time. He was aware of being taken to the hospital, of the surgery, the examinations, the medication being applied. He was even aware of his grandfather yelling at him by his bedside. He just had no will to live. He wanted to just let go and die. In the end, it was a voice that brought him back. "That's mine. I'm so sorry, I was a bit distracted. I'll send you a tip later." It was Amelia's voice, and that face so much like Amelia's. That evening, Liam woke up. He stared at the ceiling for a long time before calling out, "Greg." Greg, who had been working on his laptop nearby, stopped typing. He looked up, his eyes filled with joy. "Mr. Hayes, you're finally awake. Do you know how long you were out?" 10 days. You slept for 10 whole days. I'll go get the doctor." Greg started to leave. Liam frowned and called out, "No need, just raise the bed for me." Greg hurried back and adjusted the bed. Liam asked coldly, "How is filming for Jenkins's show going?" Greg was surprised that the first thing he asked about upon waking was work. He was momentarily stunned before replying, "It's going very smoothly. Director Jenkins even hired people online to edit videos, behind-the-scenes footage, and leaks for promotion. The response has been great. They already have a solid fan base." Liam grunted in acknowledgement. He was silent for a long moment before speaking again. "Call Jenkins. Tell him I'm coming over tonight." "Okay." Greg took out his phone and found Jenkins's number. It was only then that he processed what Liam had said. He was so shocked he stammered, What did you just say? You're going to the set tonight?" "He just woke up and he wants to leave the hospital." This was insane. Liam shot him a sharp glare, his tone leaving no room for argument. Greg immediately fell silent. He hesitated, wanting to say more, but in the end, he just sighed and went outside to make the call. After a while, there was a noise at the door. Liam, assuming it was Greg, didn't look up and said, "By the way, that day I asked you to find out from Jenkins what that woman who got the takeout was named." His voice died as he saw Sophia. Sophia, seeing him awake, was initially overjoyed, but after hearing his words, her face fell. "What woman? Liam, are you seeing someone else?" Liam looked away, his expression unreadable, his voice cold. "That's none of your business." To Sophia, this was as good as an admission. She was furious. "Weren't you just unable to get over Amelia? She's barely been dead, and you've already fallen for someone else." "Shut up. I won't. All you rich people love to pretend. Your humility is fake, your kindness is fake, your deep love is fake. Everything about you is fake," Sophia accused Liam, her emotions spiraling out of control. But she wasn't speaking up for Amelia. She was lamenting her own foolishness. Because in the 2 years she had been taken care of by Liam, she had been blinded by the illusion and had fallen hopelessly, irrevocably in love with him. Liam's patience ran out. His face was murderous as he roared at her. "Get out!" Tears streamed down Sophia's face, her red eyes filled with hatred. "You'd better protect that Chloe woman, because I will make sure she knows what happens when you try to steal my man." She ran out, sobbing. On her way out, she collided with Greg, who was just coming in. Greg looked at her retreating back in surprise, then pushed the door open. "Mr. Hayes, I've contacted Director Jenkins. The car is waiting downstairs at the inpatient entrance. Should we leave now?" "Yes." Liam, his face a cold mask, threw off the covers and got out of bed. After changing, he strode out. Greg followed, and thinking of Sophia's distraught figure, he couldn't help but say, "Mr. Hayes, Miss Sterling probably doesn't know that Joe was laid out. It's so dark now, and she ran out crying like that. Maybe we should." "No need." Before he could finish, Liam cut him off, his voice devoid of any warmth. Greg wisely dropped the subject. Sophia ran from the hospital, crying, and went to a bar. She drank until late into the night. When the bar closed, she stumbled back to the villa. The house was empty, just like her heart. Sophia didn't turn on the lights. She kicked off her heels and felt her way up the stairs in the dark. However, just as she reached the second floor, she was grabbed from behind. "You bitch! You thought you could play me?" Hearing Joe's voice, Sophia's eyes widened, and she began to tremble uncontrollably. "You," drunk and confused, she couldn't form a coherent sentence. Joe's lips brushed against her ear. "It's been a while. I wonder if you're still as tight as you used to be. I don't think we've ever tried it on the stairs. Want to try tonight? Sophia was so terrified that tears streamed down her face. Number please, don't I have money? Just take the money and go, Joe acted as if he hadn't heard her. He reached out and patted her face lightly. After how you screwed me over, of course you're going to pay, but before I take the money, you're going to make me feel good. With that, he ripped her dress. Sophia's eyes were red. She began to struggle violently. No, I'd rather you kill me. Joe's patience ran out. He pushed her to the floor, his face a mask of hatred. He raised his hand and slapped her hard. You shameless whore, you forget who you are after 2 years with some other rich bastard. You think Liam Hayes would ever want a slut like you? His words were a thunderclap, shattering all her illusions and pretenses. She struggled weakly a couple more times, then went limp. She let him do as he pleased. In the KTV private room, Amelia sat in the corner, a frown on her face. Today, the male lead of the Statesman, Mr. Grant, had been nominated for a newcomer award. After work, he had treated the entire crew to barbecue and karaoke. Amelia had usually declined such group activities, but today, Jenkins had personally invited her, and she couldn't refuse. The room wasn't soundproof. The rock music from the room next door was so loud it made her heart pound uncomfortably. Unable to sit still any longer, she went outside for some fresh air. Stepping out of the KTV, she finally felt like she could breathe again. She had only been standing there for a few minutes when she heard several pleasant male voices from behind. Ethan, I heard you were in a death match at a boxing gym a while back. Is that for real? A death match? No way, bro, you short on cash or something. If you need money, just tell me, I'll sell my car to support you. Get lost if you've got nothing better to talk about, just go home, Amelia froze. The voice was strangely familiar. She instinctively turned her head, and her eyes met Ethan Shaw's. Perhaps because of her previous experience with Liam, this time, although her heart was pounding, she calmly looked away. And she didn't move. Behind her, Ethan told his friends, "Don't follow me," and walked toward her. He stopped in front of her, staring at her face for nearly a minute before saying, his voice full of shock, "Amelia, what the hell is this? Did you fake your death? Or are those ashes fake too? Are you talking to me?" Amelia feigned confusion, even glancing around as if looking for someone else. "Am I talking to the air?" Ethan's tone was harsh. Amelia's face hardened. "Sir, first of all, you have the wrong person. And second, is it polite to just walk up to someone and tell them they're dead?" Perhaps because Amelia's act was so convincing, Ethan began to doubt himself. "You're not Amelia. Then who are you? Why should I tell you?" Amelia shot him a glare and turned back into the KTV. Ethan stared at her retreating back, a deep frown on his face. Back in the private room, Amelia immediately took a mask out of her bag and put it on. She decided that from now on, she would never go out without a mask. That was too terrifying. After a long while, her pounding heart gradually calmed down. After the karaoke, Amelia followed the group back to the hotel. She dragged her tired feet back to her room. However, as she turned into the hallway, she saw a handsome figure standing in front of her door, and she froze. At the same time, Liam's cold eyes turned to her. They stared at each other. For a moment, neither of them moved. Amelia's feelings were complicated. In the end, she was the one to look away first. She walked over, her steps heavy. "Good evening, Mr. Hayes." Liam's eyes were fixed on hers. "If I remember correctly, you didn't see me last time. How do you know I'm Mr. Hayes?" Amelia's hand, about to pull out her key card, paused. She lowered her eyes for a moment, then slowly raised them to meet his. "Your photo has been circulating in our work group chat. Everyone on the crew knows who you are. And besides, you have a very distinctive face, the kind of face one remembers. What's your name?" "Chloe Chen." "Age?" 26. "Are you from Chicago?" "No, I came here for college." Amelia's answers were smooth, her tone distant and unfamiliar. Liam couldn't find a single flaw. Seeing him silent for a long time, Amelia spoke up. "Mr. Hayes, is there anything else you want to ask? I'm a little tired." Liam stared at her, silent. Even though she was wearing a mask, even though her file matched what she was saying, even though she seemed to genuinely not know him, he still felt she was Amelia. A person's mouth and expression could lie, but their eyes couldn't. Amelia didn't wait for him. She swiped her card and entered her room. Just as she was about to close the door, Liam, who had been staring at her, suddenly spoke. "Amelia, The cancer, the heart transplant, the ashes, it was all a joke, wasn't it? It was all just a prank you were playing on me? Amelia's hand on the door froze. She looked up at Liam. She didn't know if it was her imagination, but she felt that he seemed incredibly sad. But was that possible? Her death had allowed him to marry Sophia without any obstacles. She had even given her healthy heart to Sophia. He should be happy. Perhaps he just felt guilty. Amelia spoke. Mr. Hayes, I don't know who this Amelia you're talking about is, but including you, several people have mistaken me for her. And from the sounds of it, she seems to have passed away from some serious illness. I don't know how much I look like her, but I don't think anyone would feel good about being mistaken for a dead person. So, if you could, I would appreciate an apology. Her words were firm, neither servile nor overbearing, and remarkably calm. Liam stared at her in silence for a long moment. I'm sorry. Amelia's eyes curved. Okay, I forgive you, Mr. Hayes, the dead can't be brought back. You should look forward, I wish you happiness. With that, she gently closed the door. Outside, Liam stared at the door for a long time. Then, his eyes suddenly turned red. He leaned against the wall and slowly sank to the floor, covering his eyes with his large hands, his shoulders trembling slightly. He looked broken and heartbroken. Amelia thought about it all night and decided she had to leave. She hadn't finished everything she wanted to do, but she had no regrets. Now, both Liam and Ethan suspected her. With their resources, they would surely find out the truth. When they did, it would inevitably lead back to Dr. Miles. She couldn't be so selfish. After getting up, she packed all her things into her suitcase, stood it in the corner, and then took her resignation letter to Jenkins's room. But she never expected to see Liam in Jenkins's room. Today, he wasn't wearing a suit. He was dressed in a light-colored casual outfit, with a pair of gold-rimmed glasses on his handsome face. He was holding a script. He looked like a completely different person from the night before. Seeing her enter, he slowly looked up, his gaze falling on her face. He gave her a slight nod. A greeting. Amelia's feelings were complicated. She looked away. Director Jenkins, if you have guests, I can come back later. No need, Mr. Hayes is one of us. Jenkins said with a smile, then his eyes fell on the resignation letter in her hand. His expression changed slightly. Chloe, are you resigning? Yes, my family called yesterday. My father is sick and I'm a little worried. I want to go back and see him. Amelia wasn't exactly lying. Her father was indeed sick. Jenkins understood. He took her resignation letter. Is it serious? If not, I can give you a few days off. Amelia said, It's very serious, and I'm not sure if I'll be coming back. You've taught me so much during this time. Thank you, really. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Jenkins looked regretful. So you're not planning to work in this industry anymore? Amelia nodded. Yes, my hometown is small. There are no film companies, no production crews. That's a real shame, Jenkins sighed. Well then, today you can. Director Jenkins. Liam, who had been silent, suddenly spoke, interrupting him. Jenkins turned, confused. What is it, Mr. Hayes? Liam closed the script, his face cold, and questioned him. Is this how you handle employee resignations? So casually? Jenkins explained. Of course not, but Chloe is a special case. She's a part-time employee, and her position was something I created for her on the spot. Once we settle her pay, she can leave. Liam asked coldly, a part-time employee with no contract. Well, she did sign one, so employees can just come and go as they please. Is the contract just for show? Jenkins was at a loss for words. Amelia's face fell. She knew Liam was deliberately making things difficult for her. She turned to him. Then what do you want, Mr. Hayes? Liam shot her a cold look, not answering her question. Instead, he said to Jenkins, Go get her contract. Jenkins wanted to speak up for Amelia, but he was afraid of offending Liam. The show was already in production. If Liam pulled his investment now, the entire crew might really be out of work. He got up and brought the contract over. Liam took it and flipped through it casually. Your part-time contract is for 6 months. If you leave early, you need to pay a $10,000 penalty. Jenkins was stunned. He was about to speak when Liam spoke again. However, everyone falls on hard times. As long as you can prove that your father is genuinely seriously ill, you can resign early. The company won't make things difficult for you. As he spoke, his eyes were fixed on Amelia. He seemed certain she wouldn't dare to produce any proof. Amelia struggled to keep her composure. Jenkins, unaware of the underlying drama, breathed a sigh of relief. Chloe, just have your family take a picture of your father's medical records and send it to you. Amelia's voice was low and defensive. My mother doesn't know how to use a smartphone. What about a neighbor or someone? Could they help? Gossip spreads too fast in my village. I don't want my father to be talked about while he's sick. Well, how about I give you a few days off and you go back yourself? Jenkins, seeing the young woman was on the verge of tears, racked his brain for a solution. Amelia couldn't produce her father's medical records, but she didn't have $10,000 either. And if she went home now, Liam would surely have her followed. After much thought, she shook her head. No need, Director. My hometown is too far from here. It's too much trouble to go back and forth. I have a younger sister who's in school. She's coming home for summer break soon. When she gets back, I'll have her take a picture and send it to me. I'll resign then. Her voice was filled with grievance. She said her goodbyes to Jenkins and left. After the door closed, Jenkins's expression changed. He turned to Liam. Mr. Hayes, you're a grown man. Why are you making things so difficult for a young woman? Liam gave him a cool look, got up with his script, and left. You're the grown man. I'm only 2 years older than her. After Liam left, Greg took a photo out of his suit pocket and handed it to Jenkins. Mr. Hayes isn't deliberately trying to make things difficult for her. The photo was of Liam and Amelia. Amelia was leaning on Liam's shoulder, smiling happily. The timestamp in the bottom right corner showed it was taken 4 years ago. Jenkins composed himself. Is Chloe Mr. Hayes's ex-girlfriend? Greg pursed his lips. The woman in the photo is Mr. Hayes's late wife. You also think they look very much alike, as if they're the same person, don't you? Late wife. Jenkins felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. Greg continued, and didn't you say last night that Mr. Cheng went to the home of the writer of The Statesman to verify, and his student had indeed passed away, and Mr. Hayes's wife's father jumped from a building due to debt and is still in a coma in the hospital. Director Jenkins, you're a screenwriter yourself. You should understand that this many coincidences only happen in stories. So, until Mr. Hayes has confirmed this, Miss Chen's true identity, you absolutely cannot let her go. Otherwise, he didn't finish, but Jenkins understood. He broke out in a cold sweat. If he had let her go just now, it would have been. After that day, Liam moved into the hotel and followed the production crew's schedule, from early morning starts to late night wraps. His presence put everyone on edge, especially Amelia. Liam's eyes seemed to be permanently fixed on her, making her feel incredibly uncomfortable, yet she couldn't escape his gaze. One evening, after filming Wrapped, Jenkins treated everyone to a barbecue. The actors, worried about their figures, didn't go. Only the crew members went. Amelia hadn't wanted to go either, but remembering that Liam never ate barbecue, and wanting to avoid running into him at the hotel, she went along. But not long after she sat down, she saw Liam and the male lead walk in together. Someone let out a gasp. Mr. Hayes is so handsome, even more handsome than Mr. Grant, someone immediately retorted, What are you talking about? Mr. Grant is obviously more handsome, and so, a debate began over who was more handsome, with both sides passionately defending their choice, neither able to convince the other. Just then, the barbecue was served. The young man sitting next to Amelia, seeing that she was sitting far from the food, offered her a skewer. Perhaps not knowing what else to say, he asked as he handed it to her, What about you? You've been quiet. Who do you think is more handsome, Mr. Grant or Mr. Hayes? His voice wasn't loud, but because everyone else was eating, everyone in the vicinity heard him. Many pairs of eyes turned to Amelia, including Liam's. Amelia, remembering how Liam had made things difficult for her, took the skewer and said casually, I think Mr. Grant is more handsome. However, the moment she said it, she saw Liam suddenly stand up and walk toward her. Everyone else saw it too and stopped eating. Jenkins, worried he was about to do something, tried to intervene. Mr. Hayes, everyone's just joking around. It's not that serious. What's not serious? I just think that perhaps I was sitting too far away and Miss Chen couldn't see clearly. Liam didn't stop. He walked right up to Amelia's side. The young man who had been sitting next to her quickly got up to give him the seat. Liam sat down without hesitation and stared at Amelia. Perhaps Miss Chen would like to take another look? Amelia didn't act coy. She turned to look at him, studying him carefully. I've looked, I still think Mr. Grant is more handsome. But Liam didn't get angry. A slight smile touched his lips. I agree. Amelia, a film set is a breeding ground for gossip. Now, everyone's eyes were glued to them, their minds already scripting several romance novels. The barbecue was finished under the watchful eyes of the entire crew. Back in her room, Amelia flopped onto her bed and buried her face in the covers. Thinking about the way everyone had been looking at her and Liam, her cheeks grew hotter and hotter. She had never realized how infuriating Liam could be. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Amelia lay on the bed for a few more seconds before getting up to open it. When she saw who it was, she frowned and instinctively tried to close the door. Ethan Shaw blocked it with his hand. What, still pretending you don't know me? Amelia wasn't as strong as him. Unable to close the door, she threw it open. What do you mean, pretending? I really don't. As she spoke, she saw Ethan take his phone out of his pocket, tap the screen a few times, and hold it up to her. On the screen was the video of her celebrating her birthday. Amelia's voice died, her face fell. Dr. Miles promised me he wouldn't show this to you until after I was dead. Ethan put his phone away. Don't blame my uncle. I saw you before, so I went back and put on a little show for him. I guess I was too convincing, it scared him. That's why he showed me the video and told me you were here. He had actually self-harmed, but he passed it off so easily as just an act. Amelia's tone was sharp. So, what do you want? Ethan stared at her for a long moment, then smiled. Nothing, I was just thinking, maybe I should show this video to Liam. He acquired my family's villa and broke into my home to steal your ashes. If I let him watch you die all over again, would that count as revenge? Amelia froze. She instinctively started to say, don't, but her voice caught. Her concern for Liam was written all over her face. Ethan's heart ached, but he kept smiling. I can keep your secret, but on one condition, you have to date me with your new identity. Amelia looked up at him. Ethan, as if reading her mind, crossed his arms and looked down at her. Don't worry, dating is just dating. I won't touch you. Besides, isn't Liam investigating you right now? With me around, it might just throw him off your trail. Amelia frowned. But isn't that just using you? Ethan said. I'm a willing volunteer. Even if he's willing, it's still using him. Amelia bit her lip, hesitating for a long time before finally agreeing. Okay. A smile spread across Ethan's face. He tilted his chin up. Then from now on, I'm your boyfriend. Get some rest. Your boyfriend will be here to take you to breakfast tomorrow. With that, he turned and left. Amelia watched his retreating back and suddenly smiled faintly before closing the door. The next morning, Amelia went downstairs with Ethan for breakfast. She never expected that when the elevator doors opened, Liam and Greg would be standing inside. They clearly hadn't expected it either. Ethan raised an eyebrow, then naturally took Amelia's hand and led her into the elevator. Liam's gaze fell on their intertwined fingers, and the temperature in the elevator seemed to drop several degrees. The intensity of his stare made Amelia's chest feel tight. She tried to pull her hand away, but Ethan's grip was firm. Ethan looked at Liam's reflection in the elevator's mirrored wall, and a cold smile touched his lips. Mr. Hayes, please control your eyes. Your staring is making my girlfriend uncomfortable. Liam looked up, his expression wounded. Girlfriend, Ethan smiled. Yes. After breakfast, I'm thinking of taking her to buy promise rings. You're an experienced man, Mr. Hayes. Any recommendations? Ha! Liam let out a cold laugh, then turned his gaze to Amelia. A date during work hours. Is this the good employee Jenkins is always bragging about? Amelia frowned. I won't let it interfere with my work. I'll be back before filming starts. Just then, the elevator reached the ground floor. Ethan led Amelia out. Liam stared at their retreating backs, his face a mask of dark fury. Greg looked at his constantly vibrating phone, hesitated for a few seconds, then stepped forward. Mr. Hayes, Miss Sterling is calling. She's been calling since last night? Because Liam wasn't answering her calls, Sophia had been calling Greg nonstop. Liam coldly looked away from the couple, took the phone, and answered. Hello, Sophia was crying. Liam, I know I was wrong. For the sake of the help I gave you before, please forgive me. Liam let out a cold laugh. Get to the point. Sophia was taken aback. Though embarrassed, she had no other choice. I'm out of money. Liam was silent for a moment. I will not give you another cent. If you call again, I will freeze all your accounts." He hung up immediately. If it weren't for Amelia's heart beating in her chest, he would have thrown her out on the street long ago. Amelia didn't even finish her breakfast before Jenkins called her back to the set. Ethan went with her. Once filming started, Amelia threw herself into her work. Ethan lay on a nearby lounge chair, his eyes following her every move. He saw a crew member smoking and saw Amelia frown at the smell. He then saw Liam immediately have Greg go over and put out the cigarette and issue a strict no-smoking rule for the entire set. He saw that on the table where Amelia worked, there was always a plate of sliced oranges. Occasionally, Liam would pick up a slice, peel it, and place it back on the plate. When Amelia finished it, he would peel another. He saw that during a break, Amelia was napping at her table. When a passing crew member bumped the table, Liam had 2 bodyguards stand on either side of it, and from then on, no one touched the table again. Finally, Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He got up and left, his heart full of a bitter defeat. He suddenly realized that they had dated for 3 years and been married for 2. They knew each other's habits inside and out. Liam must have recognized Amelia a long time ago. He wasn't exposing her because he was afraid that if he did, he would lose even this precious time with her. So, he was playing along. Thinking of the scene in the elevator that morning, he felt like a clown. After work, Amelia couldn't find Ethan anywhere. She took out her phone to call him, but after several calls, he didn't answer. Liam, passing by, paused. He stopped and turned to her. "What, your boyfriend isn't answering?" Amelia's face was grim. "He's probably busy." "Do you need something, Mr. Hayes?" Liam said. "No, I just saw that it's getting dark, most of your colleagues have left, and your boyfriend isn't answering. I was wondering if you wanted to walk back together." "No, thank you." "Okay." Liam left immediately after her refusal, as if he had just been making a casual offer. After he left, Amelia sent a few texts to Ethan, but there was no reply. She sighed, put her phone away, and started walking back to the hotel. It was late, and the path was almost deserted. Just as Amelia turned onto a small side path, a hand shot out from behind, clamping down hard over her mouth and nose. She struggled for a moment, then everything went black. Amelia was woken by the sounds of lovemaking. She frowned and slowly opened her eyes. She was in a dilapidated warehouse filled with junk. She was sitting in a chair, her hands tied behind her back. The woman's soft moan came again. Amelia followed the sound and saw 2 pale, writhing figures. The woman was sitting on top of the man. Seeing Amelia was awake, Sophia got up from Joe's lap, casually grabbed a transparent lace nightgown, and slipped it on. She walked toward Amelia. "You're awake?" Amelia stared at her face, as if she couldn't believe it was really Sophia. Sophia's red lips curved into a smile. "I was wondering what kind of woman Liam would fall for. But after seeing your face, all my questions were answered." Amelia's eyes were filled with confusion. She didn't understand. "What?" Sophia tapped her phone a few times, then held the screen up to her. Amelia looked and saw a photo of herself and Liam. Sophia put her phone away, looking down at her imperiously. "Well, you look a lot alike, don't you? The woman in the photo is Liam's wife. She passed away not long ago. He's nice to you, he treats you special, but it's only because he sees you as a substitute for Amelia. Did you really think he likes you?" Now, Amelia understood. She met Sophia's gaze. "I never thought he liked me." Sophia was taken aback. Quite the sharp tongue. That bitch Amelia would never talk like that. Who's the bitch calling a bitch? Calling Emile, Sophia stopped mid-sentence, realizing she'd been tricked. Her face contorted with rage. She raised her hand and slapped Amelia hard. "You dare talk back to me?" Slap. Amelia's head snapped to the side. A ringing filled her ears. After a long moment, she turned her head back. "Miss, you were the one who insulted yourself." Sophia's face was furious. She raised her hand again. "Who are you calling a miss?" Slap. Another slap. The corner of Amelia's lip was split, and blood trickled out. The discomfort in her heart made her face go pale, but she continued to stare at Sophia. "You, aren't you?" Sophia was livid. She raised her hand to strike again, but was stopped by Joe. "That's enough. If you kill her, we won't get any money and we'll end up in prison." Sophia struggled, but couldn't break free. She shot him an angry look. "Don't be so noble. I think you just can't bear to hurt her because she's pretty." Joe was stunned for a second, then put on a placating smile. If we're talking about looks, she's not nearly as beautiful as you. If I'm reluctant to hurt anyone, it's you. Get away from me." Though Sophia was still annoyed, she lowered her hand. It was clear his words had had an effect. In the afternoon, Joe had to go out. The moment he left, Sophia picked up the fruit knife from the table and walked toward Amelia. Amelia frowned instinctively. "What are you doing?" Sophia stopped in front of her, a smile on her bright red lips. "Tell me, if I were to ruin this face of yours, would Liam still want you?" Amelia glanced at the sharp blade and closed her eyes in fear. "Don't do anything crazy." Her fear pleased Sophia. She leaned in, pressing the flat of the blade against Amelia's cheek. "But what can I do? I get angry just looking at this face. If it weren't for you, maybe Liam would have married me." With the cold blade against her face, Amelia didn't dare move. "But I heard Mr. Hayes didn't even like his wife." "Didn't like her? If he didn't like her, would he be drinking himself into a stupor every day after she died? Not just drinking, but he started having hallucinations. I saw him with my own 2 eyes, celebrating Amelia's birthday with an empty chair. You call that not liking her?" At the memory, Sophia was practically shaking with rage. "He loved Amelia, but he pretended not to. He used me to hurt her. He didn't love me, but he pretended to be completely devoted to me, making everyone think he did." "Tell me, are all you rich people crazy?" Amelia thought Sophia was lying, but she couldn't see any reason for her to. But Liam loved her. The man who couldn't even stand to look at her, who couldn't spare a minute for her on the phone, who was so disgusted after sleeping with her that he convinced himself it was a dream, who didn't even glance at the gifts she gave him. How could that be love? A wave of grief washed over Amelia. "I don't know what happened between you and Liam, but one thing is for sure. He didn't love his wife, and he doesn't love me. You've kidnapped the wrong person." Sophia glared at her face viciously. "Whether I have the wrong person or not, I can't stand the sight of this face. I think I'll just ruin it." She pressed harder with the knife. "Don't," Amelia screamed in terror. The next moment, a loud bang came from the direction of the door. The warehouse door was kicked open from the outside. Light flooded in. Amelia looked, her eyes blurred with tears, and saw Liam's cold, dark, handsome face. And on her own face, a thick, sticky liquid was trickling down her cheek. She looked down in a daze. Seeing her blood-soaked clothes, she froze for a second, then screamed. "Ah!" Amelia's scream startled Sophia. She kicked out at her. "Shut up!" Amelia's body was already weak. The kick sent a wave of pain through her heart and abdomen, spreading through her limbs. The sounds around her began to fade. She desperately tried to keep her eyes open, to find Liam, but her vision was blurry, and she couldn't see anything clearly. Later, Amelia felt the ropes being cut from her body. Someone picked her up. That person seemed to be crying, because his tears were falling on the back of her hand. Amelia had thought she would die then and there. She never expected to wake up again. When she opened her eyes, she saw Liam sitting by her bed, looking utterly defeated. Liam had been watching over her for 3 days straight, without sleep. Seeing her awake, his muddled mind suddenly cleared. He asked, his voice hoarse, "Amelia, how are you feeling?" Amelia slowly sat up, her face a hard mask. "I told you, you have the wrong person." This incident had truly terrified Liam. He was no longer willing to play along. "Will you just listen to me for a moment?" Amelia looked at him coldly. "Do whatever you want." Liam met her gaze, his face full of sincerity. "It wasn't until I thought you were dead that I realized how despicable I had been. I showed you that despicable side of me because I had to hide the part of me that loved you. At the time, I misunderstood. I thought you had fallen for someone else. I was afraid of you knowing I still loved you after you left me, afraid you'd look down on me." If this were before, he would never have been able to say these words. But if he didn't say them now, he was afraid he would never have another chance. Liam's eyes reddened. "That night, I didn't think it was a dream because I was disgusted. It was because I had dreamed of it so many times. I thought you didn't love me, so it could never happen. That's why when I woke up, I convinced myself it was just another dream. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all the ways I hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please let me be with you for what time you have left." Hearing his words, Amelia's heart ached unbearably. The mask she had been wearing finally shattered. Tears streamed down her face. Her vision blurred, she fumbled for her phone and called Ethan. This time, he answered. Before he could speak, Amelia choked out, "Come to the hospital and pick me up." but it was Dr. Miles's voice that came from the other end. "Amelia, Ethan has gone abroad. He asked me to tell you that he already showed the video to Liam. He said that even though he was only your boyfriend for a day, he was very happy, and he'll never forget it. Liam loves you very much. He won't fight with him for your final days." Amelia looked at Liam through her tears. The tears flowed faster. She asked Dr. Miles, "Ethan doesn't want me anymore. What about you? Are you still willing to take me in?" Dr. Miles was taken aback. "Of course, the Lakeview Villa will always be your home. If you want to come back, I'll come and get you now." "Okay, I'll be waiting." After hanging up, Amelia still wouldn't say a word to Liam. Dr. Miles arrived quickly and took her away. Liam sat in the hospital room, his heart breaking. Greg was reluctant to disturb him, but he had no choice. He walked in, his head bowed. "Mr. Hayes, the police just called. They said Joe and Sophia have escaped. They're conducting a city-wide manhunt and have warned you and Mrs. Hayes to be careful. They might come for revenge." At the thought of Amelia's safety, Liam immediately snapped to attention. He slowly stood up and left the room. Joe had learned how to escape and evade capture from his cellmates in prison. Capturing him was proving to be extremely difficult. The next day at noon, the police traced a faint mobile signal to Liam's villa. When Liam arrived with the police, Sophia was sitting on the windowsill of the second-floor master bedroom, a bloody fruit knife in her hand. Seeing Liam, a faint smile touched her red lips. She shouted to him, "Liam, did you know? Just now I lured Joe to bed, on your and Amelia's bed, and at the height of his passion I killed him with one stab." Liam was filled with disgust. The revulsion on his face stung Sophia. "Yes, I'm disgusting. I'm dirty, but who asks to be born dirty? Who wouldn't want to be like Amelia, born to loving parents, with a handsome, loving husband, and more money than she could ever spend?" Sophia screamed, her face contorted with jealousy. Then she laughed triumphantly. "But what does it matter how good her life was? In the end, her face was ruined by me, and her heart is mine." "Liam, you wanted Amelia's heart back, didn't you? Well, let me tell you, you can dream on. Now, I'm going to die with her heart. Watch me." With her final words, she closed her eyes, her face set with a grim resolve, and jumped. Her body landed at Liam's feet. In an instant, the sound of police sirens and ambulances filled the street. Liam's face was dark. He stood there for a long time before turning and walking away, his expression cold and hard. From then on, Liam went to the Lakeview Villa every day. At first, he just stood outside. Later, Dr. Miles, unable to bear it, would invite him into the yard to rest. Dr. Miles had also invited him inside, but he had refused. That day at the hospital, when Liam had heard Amelia ask Dr. Miles if he would still take her in, a pang of sorrow had shot through him. She saw this place as her final sanctuary, a place he should not enter. For 2 weeks, Liam came every day, rain or shine. He was accompanying Amelia in his own way. One day, a torrential rain was falling. Amelia stood by the window, her gaze fixed on the black figure holding an umbrella outside the villa. "Knock, knock, knock. Come in." Dr. Miles walked in with a cup of hot water. "How are you feeling today?" Amelia looked away from the window and took the cup with both hands. "Much better. Dr. Miles, ever since I started taking the medicine you gave me, I feel a little better every morning. The pain in my abdomen isn't as bad as it used to be. I don't know if it's just in my head." "Doctor." Miles didn't answer her question. Instead, he asked, "Amelia, have you ever heard of a medical miracle?" Amelia's hand, holding the cup, paused. She looked at him, confused. Dr. Miles continued, "I've seen many cancer patients. Among them, some have gone into remission, but none have been cured. Those who went into remission never even knew they had cancer. They continued to live their lives as before. They didn't cry every day, they didn't pity themselves, they didn't feel different from anyone else, and they didn't stop embracing the people they loved. And the ones who passed away quickly were often the ones who aggressively sought treatment after their diagnosis. So, cancer isn't the scary part. The scary part is the human heart." Amelia's expression grew distant. Her gaze returned to the figure in the rain outside. It was unclear if she had heard him or not. Dr. Miles sighed. "The length of one's life is determined by fate, but how you live it is your own choice. Amelia, think about it." He had said enough. He turned and left. Amelia watched Liam. Suddenly, as if sensing her gaze, Liam looked up. Through the curtain of rain, their eyes met. Amelia felt some emotion growing wildly inside her. Finally, driven by this emotion, she turned and walked out of the room. Her pace quickened until she was running. Downstairs, Amelia ran to the front door and threw it open. She stood there, staring at Liam. Through the iron gate of the villa, Liam looked toward the door. He hesitated, unsure if he dared to approach. "Liam," Amelia called out. Liam hesitantly walked in. He came up to the steps in front of the door, his umbrella still up, and carefully tried to read her expression. "Amelia, am I disturbing you? Maybe tomorrow I'll stand further away." Amelia looked at him, her eyes welling up with tears. "I miss your hugs, huh?" After a moment of surprise, a wave of ecstatic joy washed over Liam's face. He dropped his umbrella and ran toward her. He rushed to her, but he didn't immediately embrace her. He first took off his rain-soaked coat. Only then did he carefully, as if holding a precious treasure, pull her into his arms. Amelia buried her head in his chest, feeling the lively, fervent beat of his heart. After a long while, she looked up. "Liam, can you hug me like this every day from now on?" "I can." Liam held back his tears and promised, and he kept his promise. Every morning from then on, he would give Amelia a long, warm hug. Amelia made a list of 100 things she wanted to do with Liam. All the things she had wanted to do before but never had the chance. They were like two people racing against time, filling every day to the brim, making each moment full and meaningful. But in the end, there was no miracle. That day finally came. Amelia sat in a lounge chair, looking at the last item on her list of 100 things have a baby, and was filled with a deep sadness. "Liam, promise me something." "What is it?" "Help me complete this last thing. I want to see you have a child. Whether it's a boy or a girl, I'll watch over them as if they were my own and pray for their safety and happiness." Liam's heart trembled violently. He didn't speak. Not hearing his voice, Amelia struggled to look up at him. "Promise me, please." Liam looked at her, his voice shaking uncontrollably. "I promise." Amelia smiled at him. Her smile was forever frozen in that sun-drenched afternoon.